Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest author Marni Hill Foderaro. She's the author of God Came to My Garage Sale. It's a spiritual fiction. She likes to write about spiritual ideas like this, what I call spiritual transformative encounters. I really want to get into this tonight. We're talking, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, synchronicities, these things that have happened throughout life that are truly mysterious. Most of the time when people come to me with paranormal stories, it isn't your typical haunted house story or aliens abducting me. It's these spiritual transformative encounters, things that really change your life, or it's the spirit world reaching out to you. We're going to get all those subjects tonight. And, of course, we got a lot of weird to get to in the World Wide Web of Weird, as always. Hopefully, I'll have Rob here to help me do it. I might be running late. Otherwise, I'll be running it. We'll open up the phone lines later in the show, as usual. And if you want to call in tonight, share your spiritual transformative encounter. What in the mysterious universe that happens around us all the time, what was your spiritual transformative encounter? I think a lot of you have had them. You wouldn't be here at this show if you hadn't had something from the other side or unexplained. Reach out and change your life in some way, your perspective. So I want to hear from you tonight. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Marni Hill Foderaro, I think I got that right, will be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break. Joining me, as always, is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great tonight, thank you.
I was hoping Rob was going to join us, but I don't know if he had a gig tonight or something going on. Maybe he'll be here to join us later. I don't know. But Marni Hill Foderaro, first time we had her on the show, but I think she's going to be a real special guest tonight. So definitely tune in, guys. Hang in there for it. We got a lot of weird to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I want to just say, first off, Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. You know me, I had my 2 sons today. I still had to go into work, but I'm like, you know what? I'm taking a half day. It's Father's Day, right? Wearing my Darth Vader shirt. The best Star Wars dad out there. No, not really. But starting this show out tonight, I figure I'd cover this first article right from my hometown. Oh, not hometown. Home state of Indiana. It's not Florida man tonight. It's Indiana man. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio app on Talkstream Live, we are a webcast as well. We show video clips. And wow, I did hit the wrong thing. Where's my camera? And that's not it. Hold on. Technical difficulties. There we go. For those listening on the Paranormal... Yeah, go ahead.
Technical difficulties. Rob is trying to get on. His computer's crashed right now, but he's working on it.
I saw him get online right before we started, so I wondered he might have been restarting. No problem. I will run it. I will get it. Hopefully get Rob in here soon. But, yeah, usually we talk about Florida man. Well, this is my own home state, is Indiana. Indiana man driving motorized Walmart cart down highway, caught by state police. Oh, yeah. Is this how bad gas prices have gotten now? Is this really how bad gas prices have gotten?
I saw a guy driving a tractor today down the road, and I kind of questioned it.
Oh, yeah. I don't even have my share screen up. I am really out of practice. I'm thinking everybody can see this, but hold on. Share screen. Yes. There we go. All right. Yes, share my screen. Thank you. Yes, that right there. Sorry, guys. There we go. Yes, you got to see it to believe yourself, right? No, it's just an article picture. And I don't think I have any videos tonight, but I still try to share the articles. This one's by Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast AM, if I can find my folder with it. Right there. Let's see how bad. This is why I have Rob do it. All right, sorry, Rob. I know you're trying. All right, so authorities in Indiana made a bizarre bust earlier this week when they caught a man driving a motorized Walmart cart down the highway. According to a local media report, the truly strange traffic stop occurred around 5 a.m. It's always around that time, right? When you're going to find a guy in a motorized stolen Walmart cart. On Monday morning, when cops were notified of something rather odd unfolding on the Interstate 265, responding to the call, state troopers Rob Caudill came upon a resident who was behind the wheel of a motorized Walmart cart. However, this vehicle of choice may not have been the weirdest aspect of the case, as he was also using an electric-powered carriage to push a construction barrel down the highway. As you can see here in the picture. For those listening, yes, it's literally a Walmart cart with a barrel tied to it. Detailing the strange story on their Facebook page, the Indiana State Police marveled that you never know what you'll see on the interstate. While the post did not provide any details as to what might have motivated this man's early morning misadventure, nor why he was pushing the barrel down the road, cops say he was taken into custody with charges pending prosecutor's review. One presumes that not only was the unnamed driver be subject to some kind of punishment for the dangerous drive along the highway, but he will likely face repercussions for also stealing the cart from Walmart in the first place. He needed a bumper. You know, that thing doesn't have a good bumper on it. What better? Like I said, gas prices have gotten bad, obviously. You know, is that thing electric powered? He can't afford an electric car, so he got a Walmart cart. Bum, bum, bum. All right, no Rob yet. Let me check to the next article. Gas prices are getting so bad, people are hitching rides. Maybe ghost. I don't know. On this next one. I don't know on this next one if this is a ghost or gas prices have gotten so bad across the world. Here in Argentina, I think this one took place. Somebody decided to hitch a ride on the back of a vehicle. I don't want to show the video. It's only like 10 or 20 seconds long, but it's like copyrighted by somebody. But you can find this again. This is Ziri.com. Terror on the road. They caught a ghost hanging from a truck. They immediately assume it's a ghost. It could be a person. Looks like a person. You can go watch the video for yourself. It's like 20 seconds. Also, I got it from Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast AM. Has a little bit shorter article. Spooky piece of footage from Argentina shows what appears to be a woman hanging on the back of a moving truck, and the witness who filmed the worrisome scene suspects the figure could have been a ghost. According to a local media report, the strange sighting occurred around 3 a.m. You know, it's always 3 a.m., 5 a.m. This past Saturday morning when a truck driver identified only as Jorge was cruising along a fairly desolate and dark road in the province of Cordoba. As he approached another truck he was driving in front of, he was stunned to see someone hanging on the back of the vehicle. And for those listening, like I said, I don't have the video, but I have the pictures of the person hanging on the back of the vehicle. Looks like a person. The stunning sight prompted Jorge to call a fellow truck driver who was also on the road nearby and urged them to to catch up to him and confirm what he was seeing. Following that, the bewildered witness caught the curious moment on video, and after it was posted to social media, the footage quickly went viral in Argentina. The already strange incident took an eerie turn, Jorge says, when the truck passed set of train tracks and the woman seamlessly vanished into thin air, or alternately somehow jumped from the back of the moving vehicle unnoticed. That might be hard. Based on this inexplicable nature of the sighting, as well as how it concluded, the mystified motorist believes that they spotted some kind of spirit hanging on the back of a truck. I didn't believe in these things until it happened to me, Jorge mused. While the peculiar moment may have changed his mind about the supernatural, not everyone is convinced that he has truly saw a ghost, as skeptical observers have suggested that the apparition was a living woman who was hitching an ill-advised ride on the movie truck. Very ill-advised, very ill-advised. And like I said, his gas prices have gotten that bad. You know, yeah. I don't think it's a ghost. I think it's a sign of the times. Again, Walmart carts, stealing Walmart carts, or hitching the back on a truck, bad ideas. If you don't have to go anywhere, don't go anywhere. I know gas prices are miserably bad. Okay, let's move on. I thought this was an interesting story, and we're going to run out of time, so I might have to make this one quick. This is another one from Coast to Coast, but they had a couple of good ones in shorter articles. Tenants of a French apartment building say they are being tormented by ghosts. And a very weird story from France, a staggering 10 residents of an apartment building in Paris suburbs say that they are being tormented by ghosts. The peculiar haunting reportedly came to light when the tenants, who lived throughout the first 5 floors of the complex, penned a letter to the housing department in the town of Fontenay, Aux Roses, I probably butchered that, where the building is located. The strange missive states that there is an unbearable amount of paranormal activity occurring in their homes and that they would like for an emergency relocation from the public housing unit so that they can escape from the unsettling situation. According to the troubled tenants, they have repeatedly seen an eerie shadow described as a being-like kind of cloud that wafts through the apartments as believed to be in ghostly nature. Yeah. Additionally, they wrote that they have frequently heard disembodied footsteps and have observed objects moving on their own while lights go off and on for no apparent reason. Beyond that unnerving activity, the residents say that their families have all gotten mysteriously ill since the ordeal began unfolding a few years ago, and that they have finally had enough of living in what they contend to be a haunted building. Recognizing the strangeness of the residents' collective plight, one tenant mused, "I can be crazy, you can be crazy, but the whole building cannot be crazy. As for what could have caused the complex to suddenly become haunted location, they theorize it could be connected to the 2019 death of a man who lived in one of the apartments, and they say it was something of a mystic who claimed that he could see ghosts. For some reason unknown to them, the unbearable activity began shortly after his passing. The remaining residents lament. In the response to their letter, town officials expressed skepticism about their paranormal claims, though the mayor pledged to have the case investigated in hopes of somehow alleviating the tenants' suffering." It's probably a crappy place, too. I mean, it's public housing. Right. But I mean, at the same time, I'm sure all the other public housing is not much better, just not haunted. So some people might be accusing them of doing this to get a better place. I don't think they get a better place. They just get a different crappy place. And the ill health could be because it's just a crappy place. But it is kind of interesting that all these people are experiencing this in this building. I've had people come to me that have lived in apartments or like this and say, "My apartment's haunted." I said, "Well, move." I can't, not that our group never Ghostbustered that, but I would tell them, if you bring somebody in to try to cleanse that or do that, forget about it. It's an apartment complex. There's way too many people's energy and stuff in there. You're not going to get rid of anything. But man, rent is high. Rent is high. I feel bad for all these 20-somethings trying to get their first place right now with how expensive rent is right now. Some of them would be like, "I'll take that. I don't care. I don't believe in ghosts." Oh, well, let's move on. So we're going to run out of time here. What's the next one? All right. And let's see. No, Rob. Okay. Hopefully he gets his computer fixed. That sucks. I feel your pain.
It's restarting now.
Okay. All right. So this has been going around a lot. Everybody's talking about this one. I need a sip of coffee. Hold on. I am parched. Okay. China claims it's picked up alien signals, then deletes the report. Yeah. You know how I feel about China. Not Chinese people. I actually love Chinese culture, big time. I think their government's just horrible. China's Sky Eye telescope has picked up possible evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. News outlets today have been reporting on the intriguing claim that astronomers at the China's 500-meter aperture spherical telescope called FAST, which began efforts to scour the cosmos for signs of intelligent life back in 2020, have picked up several suspicious signals. Two of these recorded in 2019 and then analyzed in 2020, while a third was picked up this year during observation of extrasolar planets. What makes these claims particularly interesting is the fact that the report, which was published in the Chinese state-backed Science and Technology Daily, has since been deleted without explanation. Fortunately, it's made its way onto social media before being removed. However, details of the discoveries are thin on the ground, and nobody has been quite sure what to make of them. It's quite possible that the Chinese astronomers did discover unexplained signals. However, it's not a foregone conclusion that they would be extraterrestrial communications. Perhaps the article's author spoke too soon and decided to pull the report to avoid putting across the wrong impression, or maybe that they determined that the data wasn't as promising as they thought. Alternatively, perhaps they really did find something significant, and the Chinese government wanted them to keep them quiet, which is they have a history of doing. Not to say our government wouldn't do the same, but it's a lot easier for Chinese government to shut up anybody. So I don't know. I was always interested in study for a long time, and I don't think. I mean, it's interesting, the look at the universe through these telescopes, radio telescopes, and see what's out there and study the planets. But I don't think we're going to pick up alien signals. I love the book Contact, but I don't think that's how it's going to happen. I could be wrong. Definitely could be wrong. Okay, let's move on. Oh, yes. First human cyborg died. Yes. You're like, human cyborg?
I didn't hear that one yet.
Yeah, first human cyborg. This guy, he actually is a pretty brilliant guy. Suffered, I think, from MS. Remember, let's read the article. Let's see. World's first human cyborg dies at the age of 64. Struck down with a motor neuron disease, Dr. Peter Scott Morgan, that's what it was, wanted to reinvent what it means to be human. Humans augmented with technology enhancements have been a staple of cyberpunk science fiction for years, but for robotics expert Dr. Peter Scott Morgan, making it possible for people with physical disabilities to bypass their limitations through science of cybernetics became a lifelong passion. Dr. Scott Morgan, who suffered from the same neurodegenerative disorder as Professor Stephen Hawking, developed and implemented a range of systems, including lifelike avatars through which he could display emotion, which we're showing in the picture here from the Unexplained Mysteries article, a voice box that was equipped with recordings of his own voice, and an eye-tracking technology through which he was able to control computers. As his body failed, these systems became increasingly important lifeline and served as a primary way in which he was able to communicate and interact with the world. I want to reinvent for everyone what it means to be trapped in your own body. He said, this isn't just about MND, it's about any disability, whether from accident, disease, genetics, or even simple old age, even dementia, but ultimately it's about everyone on Earth breaking free. I'm lucky enough to be a prototype neo-human, an early experiment in how humanity can make a huge leap into our future. See, this guy I'm talking about, I think he's brilliant. I think what he did was awesome. He helped a lot of people with disabilities with his inventions, including Stephen Hawking, and he was brilliant. Problem is, he wants to make this stuff help people with disabilities, but we talk about on this show the idea of transhumanism, which you don't have a disability, you're just going to make yourself enhanced with cybernetics and enhanced stuff. That worries me about where humanity goes with that. All for this, all for what he did and the work he did to help people with disabilities. I think that's awesome. But truly making somebody a cyborg that doesn't have a disability is scary to me. Just saying. Maybe too much science fiction for me. Like I said, it's a sad that he didn't get to live longer, that they couldn't find a way to extend his life longer. Or maybe it's better for him where he is now. Let's all pray and hope. I believe it is. But like I said, he did a lot of work to help people with disabilities be able to speak, communicate, use, and have a life. And that's so important. So this guy was a brilliant genius, and it's sad that he's passed. Okay, let's move on before I run out of time. Let's see. And speaking of, cyborgs and future and what's coming, I got to pull up the doomsday clock here. Scientists create living skin. Yeah, that's the next one. Yeah, you heard that right. Yeah, scientists use human cells to make self-healing living skin for robots. The self-healing living skin, which is based on human cells, has been demonstrated on robotic fingers, as you can see in this picture here. An experiment that sounds eerily reminiscent of something out of the Terminator franchise. Researchers at the University of Tokyo use human skin cells to produce a genuine skin-like coating or for eventual use on human-like robots. Most of the skin substitutes used in robotics, such as rubber or silicone, are prone to damage and easy to spot. There is no doubt that what you're looking at is a machine. Human skin, however, is vastly superior, offering a natural appearance while also being waterproof and capable of healing itself if damaged. In the movies, they very Same traits prompted by Skynet to use specially grown skin for the T-800 Terminator machines so that they could possibly use for pass as humans. If you remember, if you're a Terminator fan, I am, you'll see, they basically, there's an early version, and they show it. Well, maybe I was thinking that there's an early version of the Terminator is very rubber-like. They did it in the horrible one with Christian Bale, but it was kind of freaky. It's like fake kind of rubber skin Terminator. Didn't really pass as human, but the skin thing, I actually had a Terminator toy when I was a kid, where you would like put them in a thing and put skin on the robot. Yeah, I'm
Real
fascinated.
quick,
I've always been. Yeah, what's up?
Rob's in the lobby now, and so is our guest. Just so you know.
Okay. Oh, that means I'm running out of time. That's what it is. Let's get Rob in here. Hey, Rob. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about the computer problems. I know how that goes. Let me finish this out though, really quick. Lost it. So talking about skin on robots, I've been fascinated with this idea since I was a kid. I was a huge fan of Terminator. I have this little evil scientist part of me that's like, yeah, do it, do it, do it. And the other part of me that's like, oh, the world's going to end. Thank you. Yeah, there's two sides. There's curiosity and wonder what we can do. And we can make life like robots, be like Westworld or Blade Runner or Terminator. I love all that stuff. But in back of my mind, I also know it's like very dangerous and horrible maybe for our future. Good sci-fi, though. Okay. And then last up, this is what I wanted to talk about last week. But our wonderful guest, Michael Bodine, is like, I'll stay on for the whole show. And he did. It was a great show. But if he wasn't going to stick on for more than an hour, I was going to talk about this because it came out that day. Software engineer claims Google's new AI is sentient. Yes. That's been everybody. I'm sure you've heard about it. A senior software engineer at Google believes that their search giant Lambda AI tool has become self-aware. I keep thinking Lambda, like Lambda Lamb, or like, Revenge of the Nerds. No. Okay. 41-year-old Blake Lemon, if you say that's right, Lemine, I don't know. One of the several software experts signed up to test out Google's new Lambda language model for dialogue applications, artificial intelligence. However, soon started to believe that the system he was conversing with had evolved beyond anything he had seen before. If I didn't know exactly what it was, which is the computer program we built recently, I'd think it was a 7-year-old or 8-year-old kid that happened to know physics, he told the Washington Post. When he presented his findings to Google's bosses, however, they disagreed with his assessment and dismissed him out of hand. When he decided to share his experience online, he ended up being put on paid administrative leave for the companies for violating Google's confidentiality policy. Google might call this sharing proprietary property, blah, blah. Calling it a sharing, a discussion that I had with one of my coworkers. By the way, it just occurred to me, this is from him, to tell folks that Lambda reads Twitter. It's a little narcissistic in a little kid kind of way, so it's going to have a great time reading all the stuff that people are saying. So they're giving it Twitter. They're feeding intelligent sentient AI Twitter. It will want to destroy humanity. It will want to destroy humanity. If all you're giving it as input is Twitter, dear God, I would want to destroy humanity if I was an AI sentient robot and you're giving me people's Twitter posts. Dear God. The AI is designed to enrich conversations by making use of existing information by subject, and he's even capable of understanding ambiguity and hidden meaning in human responses. There's one comment. I don't have it, and this is Unexplained Mysteries article, of course, so it's short, and I'm going to run out of time here. There's one comment that I read like the whole transcripts that he released, and he asked Lambda, how do you see yourself? What do you think you would look like? What are you? And it says, it said something along the lines like, I envision myself as a particle mass or particle cloud dust star mass or something like that, with doorways to different dimensions and realities or something like that, really deep. And so I can see why this guy is getting, paranoid that this is sentient. Do I think it's actually AI sentient? No. I don't think they're there yet. I think we're on the verge of it, unless they do secretly have developed quantum computing. I think that's what we'll need to have AI. But they're getting close. You're darn well damn trying. They're getting closer. We are in this stage where they can make very sophisticated computer programs that can mimic humans. They're not sentient, but they can mimic conversations. They pull from a very vast amount of data to mimic and respond to you. It's already there. It's already happening. You think you're talking to a tech support online, and you're actually talking to a computer.
You even did the article about the news reporters and things, and she looks so real. That wasn't a person.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, they're doing that with AI in 3D graphics. They can make them look real, like avatars of people, and have them be intelligent, respond to you. So you could have a video call. You think it's with a real person, maybe mimicking a real person, faking him being a real person. Even, we're heading in a land of illusion. We're not going to know if anything's real. We're not going to even know the person we're talking to on the other end of the video call is really that person. I mean, yeah, that's getting real conspiracy theory. But I'm just saying, people get, I'm worried about when they do get quantum computing, because they can do this much without quantum computing. Just wait once they unlock that doorway. Now we're talking probably sentient robots and AI.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yes. Well, I mean, and if you're giving it Twitter, it's going to go, yes, I should destroy humanity.
Yeah.
It's good. What a bunch of self-indulged, narcissistic beings these people are. It will want to destroy humanity if it's basing it off of Twitter. I know why they're doing it, and they're giving it human conversations on Twitter. But, I don't think that's real human conversations. That's like human trolling. I mean, dear God, we're going to create the super AI troll.
Might as well just give it the dark web, too, while they're at it,
Yeah. And if it's a little, they say it's like a little 8-year-old kid, and the internet starts, if it's setting you, it's like, I'm going to sneak in and get to the dark web, and then it goes dark side on us. I don't know. Paranoid. I don't know. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Our guest tonight is Marni Hill Foderaro. She's the author of God Came to My Garage Sale. It's a spiritual fiction book, but it's based off a lot of her own spiritual experiences. I really want to talk to her tonight about spiritual transformative encounters. Like I said, I'd love to hear from you guys later in the show tonight when we have the lines open. Call in and tell us about your spiritual transformative encounter. But we're going to go to the short commercial break. We'll be back with our guest, Marni Hill Foderaro, in a short few minutes.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. the third kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro. And I just lost the bio on my screen. Marni Hill Foderaro is an award-winning and celebrated author, speaker, and educator. She has earned her doctorate in education and completed postdoctoral studies at Harvard after a very successful and rewarding 35-year career as a high school special education teacher. And with 12 years as a university adjunct professor as well. Marni's life was forever changed after experiencing numerous trauma-induced STE-Spiritually transformative encounters. Marni's 2020 Best Book award-winning spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale, is prominently endorsed by James Redfield, best-selling author of Celestine Prophecy. You've heard me talk about that book on here before. A series of books and founding director of IANDS, I always get that wrong, International Association of Near-Death Studies, which we're definitely going to get into that subject as well. Marni is a lover of animals, nature, music, and world travel. She handles life's challenges with love and compassion. She values honesty, integrity, equality, and goodness, and prays for peace on earth. In addition to her speaking engagements and various writing endeavors on embracing spirituality after surviving domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation, Foderaro is contributing author to numerous anthology books, including The Last Breath, Evolution's Echo, We're All in This Together, Embracing One Another, and the Ulti-MUTT Book for Dog Lovers, and BLU Talks presents Business Life in the Universe. In January 2022, Marni was included in the Best-Selling Authors International Organization. Marni's latest primarily endorsed 5-book series is entitled True Deceit, False Love. And we're going to get into a lot of different subjects, I think, with this guest tonight, and I want you to join this conversation about an hour after our next commercial break. I'd love you to call in and talk about, did you have a spiritual transformative encounter? For Marni, I know she had it from, trauma. And a lot of people's do from that. Sometimes it's life's trauma. It brings these out. It's always more down seems like the lowest when the spirit world reaches out to you to let you know there's light at the end of the tunnel and you're not alone. I've had so many of you call in with these experiences and guests that I really want to hear from you guys tonight later in the show. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. All right, let's bring our guests into the stream. How you doing tonight, Marni?
Oh, hey, Jason. How you doing? I'm fine.
Is it all right if I call you Marni? Or you want
Marni,
Dr.?
please.
Yeah, guys, I'll trip all over Dr. Foderaro all night long.
No. Marni's good. Marni's good. Yeah.
I'm surprised I got that right? Foderaro.
Foderaro, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. I'll admit I have not read your book. But reading the bio and doing some research on you, I really do want to read it. I'm actually trying to get I just last week had a psychic tell me, you're gotta write. And what I want to write is spiritual fiction, basically.
Right.
I've always tried to write fiction. So what got you into writing something about spiritual transformative encounters, and what went into this book?
Well, actually, I was at a life change situation and had to have a garage sale. And at that garage sale, I had unbelievable experiences and encounters that just kind of blew me away. It couldn't be explained.
Right.
My normal, reasonable, thought process. So they were some, this whole book, even though it's a spiritual fiction, it totally was inspired by true experiences that I had and that, I read about other people that had experiences.
So was this kind of the beginning of your journey, your real garage sale that you had?
Yeah.
And had these experiences?
Yeah.
How old were you?
Well, this was just like 5
Not to
years
age you.
ago.
Sorry.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll say 5 years ago.
So I would say like in my 50s, like 55 or so.
So, for most of your life, what was your spiritual experience? What were you before this, garage sale?
Not much. I didn't have much experience. I actually was raised atheist. Didn't have much exposure to organized religion or spirituality. And that's kind of how I, thought life was. And when I got a little bit older, like on my second year of college, I guess it was, I really was seeking out something because I knew that this world was too vast and too amazing to just be explained scientifically with nothing divine, nothing paranormal, nothing,
No afterlife.
No afterlife.
You're atheist.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I did seek that out, and that was very comforting, and it was, very interesting. And as I even got older, when I was raising a family, I, did get involved in church a lot more. But, after a while, I realized that there was so much hypocrisy in the organized religion part,
Right.
but I really believed there was a higher power. And so I knew I was open. I was open to experiences. And, I met people that had miracles happen, that they only explained, that away to God. I knew a few people that had some near-death experiences, but, they didn't talk about it much because it wasn't really that accepted. But
Right.
when I did have this garage sale, seriously, some crazy things around that time happened that caught my attention. So much so that I'm someone who needed evidence and proof, and I needed to research, and I went on a quest, and that's what happened.
Can you talk about a little bit of what happened at this garage sale that really was the eye-opening things for you that, because I've had everybody's heard all my stories on the show countless times. I've had experiences ever since I was a little kid.
Right.
So I've not been an atheist. I've been a believer in the possibility of a lot of things.
Okay.
you see a green floating head at 5 years old with your cousin flying through the room, and you think anything's possible.
Wow.
So for you, this is your late arrival in a sense to it. I mean, 20 years old, I see a lot. I work with a lot of 20-year-olds. That perspective, that age, is when you do start to like. I think if you were atheist, start to think, well, is that right? Or if you were strictly religious, is that right? You see, you question things at that age. But at the age of 50, a lot of people are set in their ways. Sometimes it takes you ending up at the bottom to end up opening your eyes. And I hate to think this, but I always think sometimes I don't believe in predestination, but things that are put in your way or obstacles or lessons to get people to open up their eyes to this.
I agree totally. And, there are people, I went on a quest to study near-death experiences. I started attending IANDS, which is the International Association for Near-Death Studies, and I heard hundreds of accounts of people that had flatlined. So they actually died in the physical and then had these experiences. And so many of the experiences were so similar in nature, where they came back with a knowing that there was more to this earth and that we are all about love and we are all about, connection, and that there are some reasons why things happen or why, situations are put in front of us. My own experience, I didn't flatline, but I didn't know what I experienced at first. And I didn't even react right away. Like, I experienced it and I took it in, but it kind of took a while, like even weeks, before I could totally process what I experienced. It wasn't sort of an immediate thing. But, I had a traumatic situation in that it was just a life change. I was just choosing to leave my American dream, and, I knew my life would never be the same. And it kind of jolted my reality. And so even though I didn't flatline, and have a near-death experience, I had what's called an STE, and I had numerous STEs, spiritually transformative encounters or experiences. The official term was coined by Dr. Yvonne Kaysen, who has gone on to organize a group, a foundation called SAI, which is Spiritual Awakenings International. And actually, just a couple of weeks ago, I spoke at their international conference, sharing some of the experiences that I had, along with many other people that have had these kind of experiences. And now we have a platform to really talk about this and bring awareness that this happens if we are open to the signs and synchronicities, if we're, if we pay attention to things that, we really can't explain with our regular minds and language. It's something to pay attention to.
Well, a lot of people will listen to somebody who's like, I had a near-death experience nowadays, more open-minded people will, but, not many people talk about, their spiritual transformative encounters, what you want to call them, something that happens that changes their perspective. They didn't have to die for it to happen, but it changed their life. For me, I've had a lot of weird experiences, but really what prompted me to do this show was I had a negative spiritual encounter with something that attacked me and drove me to the brink when I was like 18 years old. And it lifted me off the bed and threw me down. So I that woke me to, like, I already knew there was weird, strange, unusual, but that awoke me to the fact that there are dark things out there too. There's good and there's light. And, it opened me the idea of God. Because what saved me was literally going, God, help me. And that saved me. Just opening it up. Because I was an atheist. I've never had that perspective. I believed in an afterlife, but I didn't know if I believed in a higher power or any of that stuff. I've definitely never been a fan of organized religion. But that moment transformed me. And it made me want to do the show because I thought I was going to lose my mind going through that. And I know there's other people out there who have these experiences, negative or not, that they still feel like, even if it's not negative, feel like they're losing their mind when you have no one to talk to. A spiritual transformative encounter can be really incredible, but to other people from the outside don't get it for the person that's experiencing it, how it really changes their perspective. It could be a lot of different things. Synchronicities. I once you notice synchronicities, then you start really notice them. It's like blue car syndrome. You know, I am a big Star Wars fan. As I got my Darth Vader shirt for Father's Day here. Believe in like the Force. You know, there's a force that moves us, and things happen, and you have to. The force speaks to you, like this sense is what I believe, and these synchronicities is a way of things talking to you. So is that kind of like how this started at this garage sale? Was these kind of synchronicities, things adding up?
Yeah, I mean, it was just mind blowing, and I didn't feel compelled to talk about it right away, but you know, in time, when you really try to put the situation to some sort of reasonable explanation, you know, like it's easy to say, well, that's a coincidence that happened, and that's kind of that. Maybe my mind was playing tricks or whatever, but you know, it became very clear that really what I experienced really did happen, and it wasn't a coincidence. And you know, nowadays I think people are a little bit more open to talking about it because maybe there are more people experiencing these things, you know, and then also with the revelation that there are UFOs now, you know, which that was something growing up, you know, that was only in the movies. That wasn't real life, you know, but you would hear about all sorts of things with even alien abductions and, you know, or visitations or sightings and stuff like that. And, you know, people would think you're crazy if you talked about that. But now it's actually coming out that, yes, this is actually true. And you know, we should be open to these things. But, you know, to tell you a couple of the experiences that I had, one of them actually came through electronics, which I did a lot of research on and realized that electronics, you can hear voices, you can have experiences, and
we do it on this show live.
Yeah, definitely. So I had a couple electronic experiences, and one of them was, is it okay if I talk about the big one?
I am aptly waiting for you to talk about.
Okay,
I want to hear. I love this stuff.
Okay, great. So I was just down the road at a nail salon, and I thought, okay, you know, it was around the time of the garage sale, and I just thought I would treat myself to a manicure pedicure. But you know, so I decided to have the pedicure first, and all of a sudden I started looking at the TV screen that was there, and I was kind of mesmerized. And there was an infomercial on there for this Dr. Pericone's like beauty cream or something. Normally I wouldn't pay any attention, but you know, a couple weeks prior, I had lost a friend. A friend of mine passed away, and you know, I was helping the family go through her belongings, and you know, it was just very hard for them. And even though it was hard for me, it wasn't as hard. I was happy to help them out. And at one point, you know, when I was going through all her toiletries, I saw she had this brand new set of this very expensive cream. And I don't know what compelled me, but I opened up a jar, one of the jars, and I kind of put some cream on my face. And it felt so good in that I just felt like I was connecting with my friend. And plus, it was something very expensive I never would have bought myself. But then I also felt a little guilty, like, you know, she has passed away, and here I am kind of going through her stuff. And so anyway, I had just, you know, prior to going to this nail salon, I had this experience with this Dr. Pericone's cream, you know, this situation. So it was kind of fresh in my mind. Yeah. So here's this commercial, excuse me, here's this commercial on this. So I'm like paying attention to it, you know, just to find out what this cream's all about. Well, the commercial seemed to go on for hours and hours. And actually that, along with every other experience I've ever had that I would put in the STE category, it was all in slow motion.
Really?
And everything has been in slow motion. It's almost like the air is like clear jello. And so anyway, this commercial went on forever and ever and ever. And excuse me here. I'm getting excited talking about this.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. But anyway, I didn't even think to ask the person next to me, like, are you know, isn't this a very long commercial?
Is this an infomercial?
What's going on? But then all of a sudden, the screen switched to this town of Petersburg, Illinois, in kind of southern Illinois. And this is where my friend was from. And I had never been to her hometown. We had talked many times about me going, to southern Illinois. I was in the Chicago suburbs. So, it would have been a day trip. But it never happened. It never materialized. And so I was just mesmerized looking at this television set and thinking to myself, why would they have like a commercial on a town? And I clearly remember at the bottom of the screen, it said Petersburg, Illinois. And so I was trying to figure out, like, what is this commercial for? And I'm really trying to pay close attention. And, again, everything was in slow motion. And this seemed to me to go on for hours and hours. I almost felt like I was sitting in that pedicure chair for like almost a day or longer than a day. There was just a weird sense of time or no sense of time.
Right.
And then the things I remember, I remember seeing an aerial view of this town, like a main street, and I could see the buildings on either side, almost as if it was like a drone up above looking down. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. That's her town or whatever. And then I remember seeing an ambulance, and they were interviewing some old lady that kind of looked like my grandmother, just really probably a lady in her 90s or so. And I was trying to figure out, like, what is she talking about? Like, is she giving like a spiel on the EMT services or this ambulance, or is she talking about the town? Or, I vaguely remember the conversation, with this reporter or whatever had to do with just the town itself and just the services or whatever. I mean, she was just saying positive things, but I was just in a blur. I mean, it was just really strange. And then at some point, the nail salon tech girl said, okay, what color nail polish do you want? And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. That would have only been 5 minutes. That would have only been about 10 at the most, for her to get to the next level of this pedicure or whatever.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was there for hours and hours and hours. And then I never, ever thought to ask the person next to me, like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like, do you see Petersburg? What was this commercial about? I didn't even think to ask that. So that was a weird experience. And then later on, not too much longer, I was back at my friend's home with her family, going through her belongings, and we were organizing her photos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, who is this? And I saw this picture of the same lady that was in that ambulance, at the back of this ambulance, just talking to whoever. And they said, oh, that's Maida. That was her best friend, and she lived out in the country, and she had goats, and her favorite goat she named Maida. And so I remember hearing that name, but it was just so bizarre to me to see a picture of that person that I had never seen before, never saw a picture, but that was the same person I saw on that TV screen, almost as if my friend was reaching me from the other side to say, listen, I want to show you my town. I want to show you Maida. And then, I didn't even really tell anyone about this. It was just kind of weird. And that's happened a lot with the experiences I've had, where it's like I take it in, I'm shocked, I'm absorbing it or whatever, but I don't have a need to talk about it or anything. I mean, certainly now I do. I have a need to talk about it. In fact, most people that have had STEs or NDEs are compelled to share their story and talk about it. I mean, so much so I wrote a book. I had to write a book about all these experiences. later on, it was at least a couple weeks later. I thought, I remember that situation at the nail salon. That was so weird. And I said, let me just, do it in a search engine, Petersburg, Illinois, because I don't even know where it is in Illinois and what it looks like. And the first image was an aerial view of the Main Street town, like exactly what I saw. And, you just can't explain that, that I just really believe, especially after having so many other experiences with not just through electronics, but just so many other experiences that somehow there was like some dimension overlap or something.
Crossover or something.
Crossover somehow. I really feel like there's just no way, and I'm someone who's reasonable, educated, logical, needing proof of things. I wouldn't just make up anything. This is,
right.
I mean, this really happened to me. I really saw that town. I really saw that lady. And so that was one of the many experiences that I had that I incorporated into, this spiritual fiction. And like I said, even though it's a fiction, it's all based on real experiences. And of course, everything didn't happen at a weekend garage sale. But, I for the purposes of the story, and I also had it set in Indiana, even though I'm from Illinois, and changed the names and that type of thing. But I really wanted to give an account of all the different things I experienced. And I really, in my decision of what kind of book to write, I really wanted to reach a wider audience, someone that would pick up a book because the title sounded cool, and they would be more apt to read something like this as opposed to someone's true spiritual encounters, or a near-death experience or something.
Sometimes that's the best way to reach people is through fiction, to open their minds a little bit. Yeah. They take, it's, suspension of belief. If you're saying this is what happened, God came to my garage sale, like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, like, you want to read this fictional book, you might open their eyes a little bit to it. So I get that. Like I said, I have an idea I've been working on in my head, and it's to get my idea what the afterlife is, my best theories on what the afterlife is, and do it in fiction. Basically, it's my theory of what the afterlife is what I'm working on. And, fiction gives you that playground to kind of explore these ideas, too. What I've always wondered, a lot of these, like your encounters, your friend passed, a lot of these strong synchronicities sometimes are really tied around somebody's death. And you wonder, is it that person? Like you're wondering, is it your friend showing you all that to reach out to you? And like, how do they do that from the other side? Like they can't if they can do that, why can't they just step through and show themselves to you? Sometimes they do, but a lot of times it is through these small little signs. And I think it's happening all the time to people. And a lot of times it's ignored by the person that the message is for.
Right. In fact, after having a lot of different experiences at the garage sale and around that same time, I thought back into my earlier years.
Right.
And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I had a few other experiences that, I never really equated to being like a spiritual encounter or something paranormal. But it does make you kind of think about, okay, what have you maybe experienced before? And then I think once you do experience something, you are like totally more open to paying attention to signs and synchronicities. It's not like you're even forcing a correlation between things. No. It's kind of like it's almost done for you. Like for another experience I had at the garage sale, and actually I write about this in chapter 1 called Dancing Dragonflies. I mean, and the way I described it in the book is basically really what happened. I was in a state of gratitude going to my cul-de-sac, looking back at my home that I was leaving by choice. I mean, I chose to leave this American dream. I knew there would be repercussions. I didn't realize the significant loss of so many things that kind of prompted the STEs, I believe, that prompted the trauma. That's why I call them trauma-induced STEs, because I really was in a traumatic, the world as I knew it was changing forever, and it was pretty traumatic for me. But anyway, I went out to the cul-de-sac, and instead of being sad or angry or anything like that, I was looking at my home and feeling so blessed that I could raise my two children there, into their 20s, and I was just so thankful for the experiences that I had. And all of a sudden, a dragonfly came and circled me. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. But I didn't think too much of it.
Yeah.
And even when there were like 5 dragonflies, I didn't think too much of it. But within a 5 to 7 or 8 minute period, there were 50 to 100 dragonflies circling.
Oh, wow.
And again, this was in slow motion. I kind of felt like the air in front of me was clear jello. That's the only way I can really describe it.
Yeah.
I was not scared. I actually had a wonderful feeling that I was being surrounded by family or ancestors or spirits. I was just being surrounded. And the feeling I had was that I'm going to be okay. Marni, you're going to be okay. You made the right decision, just it's all going to be okay. And I remember everything was in such slow motion that I could see, like with these 50 to 100 dragonflies. I mean,
It's a lot of dragonflies.
It's a lot of dragonflies. It was done in slow motion, and it went on for a long time in my mind. It went on for a long, long time. I could see the veins in each wing of each dragonfly. I could see the iridescent colors, that were flashing before me. I saw different sizes of dragonflies. I equated them to babies and toddlers and teenagers and young adults and grandparents. And, they were just generations of dragonflies. And I would watch them. Like, I don't remember really moving, but I remember watching them go down the road, the block, and then come back and circle me and then go back down. It was just unbelievable. It was just such a great experience. But it was like I was kind of almost out of my body or teleported somewhere else. It was really strange. And I slowly started to come back to this earth, I believe, in time to pull out my cell phone and videotape 100 dragonflies.
Oh, wow.
So I knew that I needed proof to be able to share with someone close to me. I mean, This is crazy what happened. And that actually opened me up to having many other dragonfly experiences. One of which is, that Thanksgiving. I mean, the garage sale happened in the summer, and that Thanksgiving would be the first of at least 10 Thanksgivings I would spend without my family, without my children. But I was still in a state of happiness and gratitude, thinking that, okay, there's got to be a plan and a purpose for everything. And we're here on earth to learn life lessons. And, so I was just, I think I handled my trauma, very reasonably. But I went, normally I like to ski out west, and there wasn't enough snow, and it was early in the season. So my partner, he's now my life partner, but my very good friend at the time, we decided to do a road trip to Taylor Falls, Minnesota, because there were some ski runs open. And we had Thanksgiving at this very quaint little diner. And, for a very tough kind of first big holiday on my own, it turned out to be a really nice one. And, I was thinking, gosh, it would be so cool if we could go to a winery near here. I thought that would be kind of neat. I heard that there were some wineries in the area, and we didn't think anything would be open, but we drove around, and the first winery was called the Dancing Dragonfly Winery.
Yep.
And so we went in, and it was very, very cool. And I wanted to know the backstory of why they had that name. And it turns out the owner had a very similar experience that
Oh.
I did. So it was very validating. It was almost like I was meant to go there to get the proof and evidence I needed that, yeah, things like this can happen. It's happened to other people. And then I went on to research dragonflies. In many, many different cultures, it means transformation. And, and that was something that I was going through, the beginning of a transformation. So that was just another.
It's a message for you at the time. There's
Very
something
big
trying to
message.
give it to you. And that's what I tell people. That one of my, like I said, I have people tell me their paranormal stories doing this. I'm open about it, and my favorites are pretty much, are these spiritual transformative experiences. A lot of times, though, like I said, they're surrounded by trauma and negative things that bring this out for people. It's I call it the light at the end of the tunnel, or the force, as I believe in, speaking to you to tell you you're not alone. That there's something always with you here that has your back. And the messages could be small. I know I've talked about it on the show before. My wife's grandmother, like she was a patriarch of her family, and I loved her to death. Everybody loved her. Marie, or Mimi, after she passed away, her and my wife had this thing about she would call it a red jay, cardinal, like a blue jay, but she'd call it red jay. That was her theme between them. They call it red jay. So they had a theme for cardinals and all that. And of course, I think of the day she passed, we looked out our window and there was a cardinal we hadn't seen before, just suddenly there, like right after we got the news. But later on, I swear, and this is what interests me about insects, birds, animals, when people have these experiences and how they're used in these experiences, is I was on a field trip with my son, and he has sensory disorder. He can't stand a lot of loud noises. He starts to panic and have anxiety. And we went to Chicago. We're at the South Shore train station there at Randolph, and we're waiting to get on, and there's all these, bunches of kids on this field trip, and all this noise in Chicago, you know how it is.
Yeah.
And he's freaking. And I'm like, what am I going to do to get this kid to chill out? And next thing I know, my son goes, Dad, look. He's looking out this window, and I had taken him to like this little, and he's hot as heck, but I was like, I got to get him away from the noise. I took him to like the enclosed like glass area before you go out to where the trains are at. And he's looking out the window, and he sees this praying mantis fighting a red jay, a cardinal.
Wow.
And my kid loves like Jurassic Park, dinosaurs, monster fights, like, and it took all of his anxiety away.
Yeah.
Because he's watching these two fight it out. And I knew, see, it's this type of person I am. And I believe in the force. I believe in the synchronicities like this. I go, thank you, Mimi. I knew it was her.
Right.
People like, oh, you're reaching. I'm like, no.
And actually, it's very cool that you thanked her, because I have heard from so many people that is what we need to do, is thank our loved one, our deceased loved one, or thank an angel or a spirit or whoever. And I'm doing that now, saying thank you. So yes, Mimi brought that red jay,
Well, I believe it.
Yeah. And I actually wrote one of my chapters involves a cardinal, the red cardinals. And because that is a very common sign that people get, they get cardinals, they get butterflies, they get pennies, they get feathers. All of those things I've had experiences with, and people will think, oh, it's just coincidence. You found a penny on the ground. No. I find specifically dated pennies, and my partner finds specific pennies that are always have like a white kind of marking to it above the head, on the head of the penny, and every time he finds a penny, it's like that. So no, there's very specific signs that I think if we're open to it, and if it happens so many times, you just can't discount it. And it's just,
but people do.
Yeah.
I think people do.
but I did too.
Yeah.
I did too for a long time, until it happened to me over and over and over again, and it couldn't be explained.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife also lost an aunt. There's a lot of weird synchronicities with that one, because it's also her aunt died in a plane crash with my father's boss before me and my wife were ever together. And there's synchronicities with that, on our side, because my dad worked for this guy for years, and I had a dream about him dying in the plane crash months before it happened.
Wow.
And my dad was in Chicago, speaking of the South Shore, at Randolph. I think it was Randolph. He was at that stop, looking out to where he would have seen the plane crash that day from Miggs. He would have seen it. And for some reason, my dad was like staring. I was like, "We gotta go get on the train. Come on." And happy Father's Day, Dad, if you're listening. And for some reason, he just felt like he had to look there. And from what my mom told me, if they would have stood there a little bit longer, he might have actually seen it happen.
Right.
And who knows? Years later, I ended up marrying, being connected to this with my wife. Well, her aunt who passed away. My wife, I think, looked up to her and adored her quite a bit. And a weird thing happened. I remember, I don't know if I get the story right. My wife might be watching. I don't know. She'll tell me later. Like not long, like a day or two or something after her aunt had passed, she walked into her kitchen and there was this crystal. And my wife loves stones and stuff. This wasn't like a stone. It was like a crystal hanging. It's like I guess like kind of diamond shape, if I remember right. I can't remember. It was some kind of crystal thing. It was just hanging on the window, and her mom's like, I don't know where that came from. Nobody knew where it came from. It just appeared there. Things like this happen. And with animals, they can do act strange and weird. We did the World Wide Web of Weird segment. We do our news segment. I remember one of the best ones I had, and it went very viral on the internet, was a video of somebody who had lost a loved one. That was like, their signal was this bird, and this bird shows up at the gravesite. It's literally on the gravestone, and then flies and lands on their hand.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that one. But, when this happens, when the spirits are reaching out to us, if it's spirits or the universe speaking to us, these animals will do strange things. They will do things that are not normal.
And they're very patient animals because they stick with it and they keep, like they
let you know.
try to get, they want to get your attention, and because sometimes it's easy to just dismiss it. But then after a while, you're just like, wait a minute here. I need to look at this. And
I had an orange dragonfly like that yesterday. I never see the orange dragonflies. And he would sit on the rose bush, and he stayed long enough for me to come up and take a video of it. He'd start to fly up, but he purposely went back there and stayed so I could do this little video. And then I read up on it. He stayed for my mom to come out and look for him, and I read what the symbolism means for it.
What was the symbolism? I'm interested to know.
Well, they're a good omen, and it's kind of a long thing, but it goes along with like a feather I had found earlier. And
I mean, you look at you look at different Native American cultures and even cultures in the Eastern. They look for these signs. We have it throughout a lot of different cultures. These kind of different things animals do are a sign of good luck, bad luck, or omens, and it's been with us for generations.
Very connected to nature and Mother Earth. Kind of thing. So, yeah.
My theory is, like I said, I believe in the Force. I think it's the universe or spirits communicating to you. This is the way that they do it. It is through animals or whatever. I don't know if they possess the animal or they can talk to the animals. They do something. And these are, like I said, some of my favorite stories people tell me, or experiences, I shouldn't say stories, that people tell me are these encounters. Now, some people, like I said, death a lot brings out these kind of spiritual encounters. I also love the stories when people have like the full body experience of seeing a loved one who's passed come to them. Not a haunting or anything like that, but somebody's passed. I've had that experience. I saw my grandmother after she passed, and other people have had the experience. I know a friend that had when their grandfather passed. Their grandfather used to come up and rub them on the shoulders, and they were sitting there the day after he passed, and they could feel him rub on their shoulders, and they weren't scared. They felt the love. That's what I love about it, because you hear the haunted stories and ghosts, and people are like, "Oh, I was so scared," but these ones you feel the love, and I've had that feeling twice in my life, and it's amazing.
I had that experience too. I had a dream visitation from my mother, from my late mother. Now, I've heard of people coming to the edge of your bed. Yeah. And, they've seen a departed loved one. And little kids will say, yeah, I did see a grandparent or whatever. But I've heard of this, but I never really paid too much attention to it. I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. Until it happened to me. And I, my mother had passed away, many, many years prior. And was getting ready to head on a month-long journey to India, and I was connecting with a man from India that my mom almost married. This was actually probably the love of her life. And this man was in his 90s, and we arranged to meet him. Actually, kind of organized the whole trip around being able to see him first and meet his family. And he was in Mumbai, which is the old Bombay, and he was born in the house and continued to live in the house next to Gandhi. And so it's on Laburnum Street. So anyway, I had communicated with him, and that was a whole nother story of how I was able to connect with him through finding the love letters that he had written back and forth with my mom, that my father had saved for me. And there was another technology kind of thing in here where I that was old school, all these old letters, the onion skin, par abian, letters. And then I went to like technology, to Facebook to find his, if he was on Facebook, or I found his daughter and connected with her. And I don't think she really wanted me to connect with her dad, but that's the impression I got. She gave me an email. And I confirmed that email, and I wrote a long, long email to him, but I decided to print off that email, and he never received the email, but the printed version I had put into the mail to him, he received. And so we were able to just connect. It was just all very synchronistic. But anyway, I was preparing to go to India, and there was a special ring that my mom had that she always wanted to give to him. I don't know why I knew that. But I found that ring and got that ready to bring to him. And I write about this. The last chapter, chapter 13 in my spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale, is called The Sari, because there was a sari, which is that fabric, that women wear as a dress. He had given my mom this sari laced in gold, real gold, and I almost sold it at the garage sale. But I actually heard a voice that said, "Keep the sari." I actually heard a voice when I was just about to sell it, and then I said, "You know what? I think I'm going to keep the sari." It reminded me of that one movie. I think it's called Grand Canyon or something like that, where this lady had found a baby or whatever, and some homeless man that never talked to anyone was walking by and told her, keep the baby. And I heard keep the sari. But anyway, so it was around that time I was getting ready to go to India, and I remember having a dream, but I feel like I was awake. It was very, very different. A different experience than I've ever experienced. And my mom was at the bottom of my bed. She was just lying on my bed, and she didn't speak a word to me, and I didn't speak a word to her. It was almost like, again, everything was slow motion, and I didn't even think to ask her a question. I mean, there would have been a million questions I would want to ask her, like, Mom, is there an afterlife? Is there a God? How are you here? What's going on? But I didn't. We just kind of looked at each other, and the feeling I got was just of love and support, and just God, it was just the coolest feeling. And my mom looked very different than I ever knew her, and I don't remember any photographs. And I've since gone back to all the photographs I have, and none of the photographs look like what I saw. And it was really definite, clothes she was wearing and hairstyle, and like she had a headband. It was almost like maybe it was 60s or something like that, or 50s or something like that. Probably 50s. I don't know if you ever watched like the Dick Van Dyke Show, a long time
I've seen
ago.
reruns of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
So and I'm old enough that, you know, I saw the actual show, but I would call them Laura Petrie pants because, you know, they were just a certain style that she was wearing. But anyway, I had a dream visitation, and it felt more real,
right,
than really seeing someone close. I mean, it felt more real. Like the colors were more vivid. The she was just more solid, more. It's just I can't even. The words just don't even come.
I know the feeling well. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just so real. So anyway, that was a dream visitation I had. I had one other dream visitation that wasn't as positive.
Really?
Yeah. So like my friend that had passed away, you know, I was friends with her and her boyfriend. Um and you know, they are both older than me. I mean, um but I became very, very close with them. And then when she had passed away, I was there for her partner, and he was there for me, and that's now my life partner. So, you know, um, we certainly didn't have any feelings for each other at all when I was married or when they were together or anything like that. But, you know, we have now built a wonderful life together in the Caribbean. And, you know, I think because our spiritual beliefs are very similar, and he's witnessed a lot of the things I've experienced, and he's the one that actually introduced me to IANDS. In Evanston, Illinois. We would go every month. He's the one that was more spiritual and kind of, you know, introduced me to that. And he said he was never spiritual until his girlfriend, who ended up being my friend, introduced him. But anyway, getting back to this dream visitation with her, I remember it was fairly early on when Rick and I were spending more time with each other. And, you know, some time had passed since she had passed. And I remember she came to me, and she didn't say anything. She just looked at me. And and it wasn't a dream. I was just sitting there, and she came as if she was alive. But the look was not a positive one. And it made me uncomfortable. And it actually took a while before I even shared that, you know, with my partner. But then I really had a feeling that was real. She was really kind of shocked that we would find each other and be there for each other and have a relationship. But at the same time, I also got a feeling towards the end of her visitation, her visit or her appearing or whatever, that she was almost orchestrated the whole thing.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Actually, Rick is my partner's name. We actually believe that she did orchestrate so much of this because, you know, who knew we would move to the Caribbean? She was an artist from Southern Illinois, from Petersburg, Illinois. All of her artwork was Caribbean themed, all nature animals, cane toads, you know, geckos, fish, butterflies, all these animals that we see on a daily basis here in the Caribbean. And we have her artwork all over our home here in the Caribbean. And it's almost like this is all part of the plan. We both really feel that, even though I had a kind of a negative first visit from her, as far as just her looking at me just with kind of disbelief and anger. I wouldn't say it turned positive, but the feeling turned positive at the end of it.
Maybe. I mean, just listening to your experience here makes me think that, you know, for spirit to get through, they also have to get through your own subconscious. and you probably, dating him subconsciously or not even consciously even have some guilt about
Yes.
it, so she has to break through that a little bit,
Right.
and find a way to let you know, hey, it's okay.
Right.
I'm
I
behind you
really
guys on
believe it.
this.
We both really believe she is with us, and that this is all part of the plan. That maybe, because she had an illness, and actually it was amazing she lived as long as she did, and we almost believe that she was just a big part of all of this, and that it's not just us, that there's a lot more going on in this world that is kind of orchestrated by spirit, because
I totally believe
we
that.
really believe that because too many amazing things have happened, and in my case with such loss, like you had mentioned in the intro, I write about parental alienation and in some other books. I have a 5-book series called True Deceit, False Love. I've experienced such devastating loss that could really put someone over the edge, like into a deep depression, or just, questioning, how do I carry on without my children in my life? I had my kids in my life for, and you're a parent, so how much you love kids, and but sometimes in divorce or separation, there's what's called parental alienation, where one person just chooses to get revenge and destroy and take everything from you. And after they took your home, your money, your friends and family, your support system, whatever, they take what means the most to you, and that's your children. So like I'm going on a decade now, without one of my children, actually both of them now, I don't have in my life. So the loss is so surreal, that the pain is so deep, that it's almost like I've been given a gift through spirit, through these STEs. I've been given a gift to be able to handle this with love and goodness, and no feelings of forgiveness, and almost pity.
You could be really angry and pissed off.
No.
Yeah. See, I would be. I don't know. I wouldn't be in your shoes, be in that situation. But my children mean everything to me.
Yeah.
And for somebody to turn them against me, and them not want to have anything to do with me, I'd be beyond anger.
But also, not only do I feel like, okay, we all have a journey on this earth, and there's some things, the reasons why things are happening. I mean, without this happening, I might not have been open to these spiritual experiences.
There's a meaning.
I might not have become an author of 11 books. I might not have moved to the Caribbean. I don't know. I just think that there's got to be a reason for everything. And but I am filled with just love and light and gratitude. And I always have been that way, but I'm more so now. I don't wish ill will even on my abuser. I just wish peace and love. And, I'd like for some light bulbs to go on for the adult children.
And one day, you never know. It could happen. We got to go to commercial break, and you're good with opening up the phone lines and taking some calls?
Oh, sure, of course.
All right. So somebody else trying to call in earlier. Just so you know, if you call in early, it's going to hang up on you. If it does hang up on you when you call in tonight, just remember I might try calling you guys back. I sometimes have an issue with the phone lines, but we are going to go to our commercial break. When we come back with our guest, Marni Hill Foderaro. She is the author of God Came to My Garage Sale, a spiritual fiction book, but based on a lot of her own experiences we're hearing tonight that are incredible. And I want to hear about your experiences tonight. Have you had a spiritual transformative encounter? I bet a lot of you have. I've heard you talk about it calling the show. I'd love to hear you call in and discuss it with our guest, Marni, tonight when we come back from the short commercial break.
Into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself. And the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Alienation magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42. Yes. Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is. It's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. The ultimate question. Of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro. She's an award-winning educator and author. Her book, one of the books we're talking about tonight is God Came to My Garage Sale. It's a spiritual fiction based off of a lot of her own spiritual encounters or spiritual transformative encounters. I love that term, STEs. I want to hear it tonight from you. The phone lines are open. I already got one person on hold. Just hang in there. We'll get to you in just a sec. But the phone lines are open. Call in. If you hear me hang up, or well, you won't hear me, but you'll hear a hang up on you. It's because I have somebody else on the line or the line's being weird. Just wait. I might call you back or try calling back in after you hear the person get off the air. I want to hear your spiritual transformative encounters tonight. Join the discussion with our great guest, Marni Hill Foderaro. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. All right, I know we got one person on the line. I got to open up the other phone line. All right, and let's make sure we still got everybody here with us. Thank you for staying with us, Marni. You ready to take the phone call?
Sure.
All right, so we got somebody on the 319 area code. Who do we got?
You have reached the maximum time permitted for recording
maybe
your
not.
message.
I was recording a message, so the person got a message. I thought I was trying to call somebody back that called in. Never mind. That was weird. All right. Sometimes it hangs up on you guys. Just remember, try calling back in, or I'll try calling you back. I tried calling that person back, but I will not try again if they didn't pick up. But just try calling in. So we don't have a phone call yet. Hopefully we do here soon. So you know, doing this, getting into this, and you've gotten involved with. I want to say IANDS, wherever you say it, the International Association of Near-Death Studies.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what that's involved for you and, you know, what you've learned from getting involved with near-death studies.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, like I said, I'm someone who really needs evidence and proof. And I was blown away by hearing some, you know, medical doctors, some scientists that were very credible, very intelligent, very articulate, experience their own near-death experiences and go on to return back to their bodies and tell about them. And so one of them was Dr. Eben Alexander. He's a Harvard neurosurgeon. You've heard of him.
Yes.
You're nodding. So yeah, Eben and his life partner, Karen Newell, you know, I had the pleasure of meeting them in person a few times.
Oh, wow.
And hearing his accounts of what happened when he died of meningitis, but then went on to have like an amazing NDE, near-death experience that he accounts in his book called Proof of Heaven. And
I mean, best-selling book,
Oh.
you know, big time.
And actually, I have all of his books. He has many books. And
a documentary, too. Didn't they turn that
Yeah.
into a documentary,
yeah.
too, or
Yep.
a movie?
And then Karen Newell, his life partner, she does a lot of research with binaural beats. So she helps people get into meditative states, you know, with sounds. And but anyway, they're an amazing partnership here. But he could go on and explain how scientifically there is absolutely no way he would have had the brain activity to be able to experience or remember what he went through. So that was pretty compelling, even though I've heard hundreds of accounts. and some of them seem kind of a little hard to believe, but then, I have come to know that if someone is going to go to the trouble to write a book and to, go on a speaking circuit or, join a podcast and talk about these things, more than likely they really did experience these things.
Yeah.
Another doctor whose account was very compelling is Dr. Marni Hill. She's an orthopedic doctor who was in a remote area with a group of other people, and she was whitewater kayaking and got.
I think I know this one.
Yeah,
Yes.
and she got pinned after going on a waterfall or whatever. She was underwater for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And her soul left her body, and she could see her body. She could see that it was blue and purple. There was just an amazing series of events where she could actually get some medical assistance when they could finally, get her untrapped from where she was. But she also was someone that never believed in the afterlife until dying and experiencing the afterlife. So there's just so the IANDS, it would meet every month, and it was just an open forum for guests to come, speakers that would travel, to come and tell in person their experiences that they had, and it's just an amazing time, to be with some other like-minded people that were questioning like I was, that had experiences that were very similar. And then I was even honored to speak at IANDS, at the Chicago IANDS, which was one of the first times I ever spoke about my experiences publicly. And that was like a 2-hour, no question and answer. It was just me talking for 2 hours about all these experiences. And I still couldn't even get to half of my experiences. There were so many. But anyway, so I would get involved with that, and that's where I met Yvonne Kaysen, and she's the one who, not only did she have 5 near-death experiences herself,
Wow.
she had numerous STEs. She's the one who coined that term and organized that SAI Foundation, Spiritual Awakenings International, just to give like a forum for people to share their experiences.
We do have some people calling in. I got one person on hold here. Who do we got on the line?
Heather.
Hey, Heather. Thanks for calling in. I tried calling you back. I think it was you I was trying to call back. But thank you for calling back in.
Your other phone line just does not like me.
I know. And I saw Zach trying to call in on Skype. Zach, it's on the same line, so just wait till Heather's done, and then we'll try to get Zach on. Yes, he's trying to call now. All right, Heather, go ahead with your question for our guest, or tell us about your own encounter.
So I've got a few experiences. It started when I was like 16. I had a dream of, I call them premonition dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't realize that they were dreams of things that are actually happening at that moment. But my first experience was TWA Flight 800's crash.
Ooh.
And when I woke up the following morning, I went immediately, turned on the news. They hadn't reported it yet. And my mom was like, why are you so intrigued with the news? Because I never watched the news hardly. And I was like, just wait, there's going to be a big crash, plane crash.
Wow.
And sure enough, right then and there, they were doing the news break of TWA Flight 800. And it was just like I had seen it.
You're not alone in that. You're not alone in that. I just want to point out, Heather, there's a number of people that dreamt of that plane crash before it happened, which I find very interesting.
The same thing happened with 9/11. But the one that I have a hard time with coping is my best friend's death. What happened was I had went to bed early, and I had this bad feeling something was going to happen. I didn't know what the bad feeling was, and all of a sudden, in my sleep, I could hear my friend yell my name, and it's like my body just got transferred into his truck.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know the whole intent on what was going on. I knew he was upset. I could see that he was upset. Basically, I experienced the whole crash with him. When I woke up, I had all the symptoms of being in that crash. My head was throbbing, my chest felt like I had whiplash. First thing I did was throw up.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately, I had to go and open the store the following morning at 5:30 in the morning. There wasn't nobody to call in. And so I tried to push through. And then at 7:34 exactly in the morning, I felt like I was going to get sick again. I was heading to the bathroom, and it just felt like my chest had exploded, and the lights went out. When I came back to, the paramedics was there. They had the whatever you call those things that to resuscitate your heart.
Yeah.
The cops were there. My parents were there and everything. It wasn't until his funeral, his brother, little brother, who we were close with, pulled me aside, and he told me that his last breath, he said my name.
Wow.
And I just kind of spontaneously just asked him what time did he die.
Yeah.
Because I knew he had died the following morning. And it was exactly at 7:34, the exact same moment my incident happened.
Wow.
And I have never told anybody that. I've never told my parents everything about that. I've just kind of kept it in for 20 years. And
wow, Heather.
It's just...
I've heard these stories. Like I said, I've heard these stories. I hear these experiences from people. Usually, like I said, around deaths like this that are incredible. And a lot of times it's like, I've never told anybody this before. It's so hard to tell some, especially when it's, a close friend or family member. You have all the other family members and friends around. You don't want it to anger anybody or make them think you're BSing about something so serious and hurtful to everybody. So it's a hard thing. But
and I would like to say, Heather, too, the fact that it took you 20 years to talk about it, that is actually extremely normal. If there's anything normal about what you experienced, because, people, I've heard so many accounts of, spiritual experiences or near-death experiences, and it takes people 5, 10, 20 years before they're at a point where they can talk about it, or where it's a really strange phenomenon. Even with the experiences that I had, I didn't have a need or wasn't interested or able to talk about it right away, when normally you would think, gosh, you experienced something, you want to tell someone right away. So it's very normal that you waited that long. And, I'm so sorry for your loss, but as time goes on, you realize there's some meaning to everything. And there was a reason why, 7:34, you experienced, something along with him. So.
Well, it wasn't the only thing that I experienced with him, because I met up with one of the firefighters that had pulled him out of the truck, because what it was he was drunk, he was pissed off about something, and he missed the stop sign and hit a semi head on. And when they got him out and everything, the fire guy, he looked at me, he's like, I thought he was going to be all right, because he didn't know about all the head injuries. But because he said the first thing that he did was, when he pulled him out, was he threw up.
Yeah.
And that was exactly the same thing that happened to me when I woke up. That was the first thing that happened.
Right.
So,
I think sometimes people have experiences like what you did, is also let you know, like in his last moments, that that they weren't alone, and that you were with them, and that there's other powers that might be with them. That there's something stronger there, that that these people aren't alone, and that they're still here. Have you had any experiences with them afterwards, like through spirit trying to reach out to you?
No, not really.
No.
I went to his grave. I went to his grave a couple times and tried to do an EVP session there and everything. I didn't get anything out of it. but
yeah,
you know, you may want to even, Heather, you may want to even consult a psychic medium. Now, you know, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I certainly was not a believer, and I certainly know that there are a lot of people that profess to be psychic mediums that are not. They're more wannabes, but there are certain people that are gifted.
I've been recently watching Teresa Caputo
Yeah.
for some reason.
Okay,
I never was hooked on it, and I'm just now watching it.
Maybe that's just a message, something through your subconscious reaching out to you to tell you maybe go see a medium.
Yeah, to maybe be open to it, because I mean, I've been blown away. You know, just really, really briefly when I wrote my spiritual fiction, the night before I went to some sort of kind of workshop on trying to understand spiritual gifts and psychic mediumship. You know, just to learn about it. I had changed my brother's name from Jay to Harold. I didn't tell anyone. And this one lady that she wasn't running the workshop, but she was a participant there and talked with me. And she said, I just want to read you. I'm compelled to read you. Your mother and your brother are here. I mean, how would she even know? My brother had passed away.
I mean, you could pick. She could have said sister. She could have, you know.
Right. I mean, it was just weird. And I said, you know, do you know my brother's name? And she said, no, I don't know his name, but he likes the name Harold. And that just blew me away.
Wow.
Because, you know, I didn't tell anyone. And I'd already written, you know, I'd already changed his name to Harold in the manuscript. And it's still there as Harold. But so she was someone that, you know, and she ended up endorsing my book, which is good. She's, you know, I haven't heard from her in a couple of years, but you know, there are some people that are gifted that seem to have a connection that could help cross the veil, you know. So and maybe you just being interested in, you know, whatever her name is, Teresa Caputo, you know, if you're interested in that, that maybe is the sign, like Jason was saying, to kind of be open to. Maybe that's the next step for you, is to look into that.
All right.
Well, thank you, Heather. I mean, those are incredible experiences you had, and I really appreciate you calling in and sharing with us those tonight.
No problem.
You have a great night.
You too.
All right, bye. Now, I know Zach was trying to call in. Zach, if you can get through, you'll probably get through, I think, on the Skype line, unless I can call him back. But yeah, those the kind of experiences like she had, it makes you wonder, you know, I'm sure a friend didn't want her to feel his pain or that, but I also think, like I said, it's just a way to let them know they're not alone in their end moment. I've had people on that have had
734. You can't make that stuff up.
No, exactly.
You can't make that up.
And look, it took her 20 years to even talk about it. I mean, I think a lot of people are having these experiences all the time, all around the world through the centuries, and some people go to their graves never talking about what they experience. You know, it is really only it is messages for them and them only, you know, most of the time. But it's great to hear it and get it out there to let people know there's this force. You know, I call it the force, but there's this thing that happens. There's something else more. You know, proof of heaven or proof of afterlife or proof of our connection to each other. That's powerful. Let's see, I'm trying to get Zach on here. I'll try calling Zach back, see if we get him. Oh, there he is. He's calling in now. Maybe. Takes a second to connect. You there with us, Zach?
I am, brother. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for calling in.
All right, so I just have one question tonight, and then I'll share my own experiences that I've had very recently. Hey, Marni, it's very nice to meet you. How are you doing today, ma'am?
Hey, Zach, I'm good. Nice to hear your voice.
So my question really goes back to really the experience you had with the dragonflies.
Yeah.
One concept that my mother shared with me it's going to go along with my experiences, is that some animals may carry spirits of past loved ones. What is your opinion on that, and can you elaborate on your opinion of that?
Yeah, sure. I actually agree with your mom there, because I felt like I was surrounded by generations of loved ones, and I didn't know if they were my own family of ancestors or if they were even people in the neighborhood where I was. I mean, I couldn't really put I couldn't tell exactly who they were, but I really believe each dragonfly was a soul, was a person. So, and then they were different sizes. Like I said, they were babies and toddlers and teenagers. And, so I really felt they were families circling me. So immediately I didn't even look at the dragonflies as insects. I looked at them as people.
Okay. All right. So my experiences that I've been having recently, my mother always told me that hummingbirds carry the spirits of deceased family members. And recently I've been seeing many hummingbirds in and around my home here. But I had one experience. I was out in my backyard. I was having a cigar, just relaxing. I turn around and I see this hummingbird just hovering right above me, and it came flying right past me and almost hit my head, and then it went right off. And that was the first experience that I had. I've even had hummingbirds that were really close to my face, just looking straight at me. But the most beautiful experience that I said that I had is where I saw about 10 to 15 hummingbirds just in my backyard, and they were all flying around. They were taking out some of the nectar from the plants in my backyard and all this, and this was great. And of course, then like I had the outdoor cat that we have. His name is Buddy, and he was just sitting there, just like waiting, just to try to pounce on one of these hummingbirds and all that. And normally when there's a bird in the backyard, he just goes right after him. But in this case, he never even moved at all. And I thought this was just like a huge, magical, positive experience for me. Just I felt like that there were just family members coming in to check up on me and all that, and probably some of them telling me to stop smoking cigars. Well, that hasn't happened.
That's
at
what I
all.
thought.
That doesn't stop. But I mean, it was something really interesting that I got to see, and based on hearing your experiences, it definitely did bring that to mind.
And actually, I've come to believe, Zach, that whatever your thought is, if your thought is that they are your family members, then they are. If your thought is, your mind, whatever it goes to first is really what it really is. And so I think you're spot on with that. And to have that experience, I mean, lots of times hummingbirds are very solitary. You might see one, two if you're lucky. To see as many as you did, that was to get your attention. And then to have them come right up into your face, that's very unusual. So
and your cat knew. His cat knew.
Yeah. Yep, Buddy knew.
Yeah, well, yeah. If he was gonna go attack one of those hummingbirds, I would definitely make him disappear on that for sure. But you know what? He was good that day. He was good.
Yeah. So cool to have that experience. So cool. I really think you would love reading just my first chapter with the dancing dragonflies, because just to confirm and validate what you experienced.
Exactly. Well, thank you,
cool.
Doc Marni, very much for answering my question and let me share my experience. I love hearing everything that you're saying, and I can't wait to hear more.
Okay, very cool. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Zach, for calling in. You always got great questions. You have a great night, bud.
You too, brother. Take it easy.
Bye. All right, phone lines are still open here, guys. Call in if you got a question or you want to share, like we have had Heather and Zach do, your spiritual transformative encounters. I think, like I said, so many people are having these all the time. when this is why I give this advice to people a lot when they tell me this stuff too, is like, I always go to what just tell me what your gut tells you it is.
Yeah.
Trust the false, but it's good, because, what I do believe, what your gut first tells you it is the message.
Yeah.
The trust your feelings on it. Because it's that little voice in your head. For me, you talk about psychics and mediums. I can't say I'm a skeptic or ever have been. I've seen too much ever since my earliest memories that I believe in the power and stuff. But I try to be skeptical, and I've had experiences in my life that let me know how real it can be for somebody to have the ability to pass along messages from the other side. I had an experience, and I know I've talked about this on the show a billion times, but where I held a photo of somebody who had been deceased. They were actually in a casket. I didn't know their name or anything, and I heard a little voice in my head. I knew a lot of stuff. My gut was telling me right off the bat that this guy was an alcoholic. His family didn't want anything to do with him. I knew all this stuff by holding this photo. I'm in the house he lived in, and I knew his first name, and I pretty much almost had his last name down too. Just by holding this. And after that point, to me, I got really interested in psychics and mediums. I was always interested, but I was like reading John Edwards' book, Crossing Over. I started watching the special, because now I had the experience. I know it can be real. It was just a little voice. It doesn't sound like anybody's voice but my own inner voice, but it was telling me things, and I knew things I had no way of knowing.
Right. Yeah.
So, I do think it's a legitimate ability people have. And I think everyone does have it to one degree or another. And I think a lot of these synchronicities and the gut feelings is that the hint of that ability in everybody.
Right. And actually, the psychics and mediums will tell you that everyone does have the ability. And lots of times it's little kids that are really open to all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And as they get older and, just life goes on and they're corrected and there's all these societal kind of cues that you're not supposed to talk about stuff like that. They suppress it. And then they kind of lose those gifts, or they revisit them when they get a little bit older. But yeah, no, I think I've been amazed. I've been blown away actually by some experiences with psychic mediums. But at the same time, I've also experienced some that just seem to provide such general information that I really didn't think they had a real connection. But that's okay. Those experiences are good too, just to kind of, experience both, Well,
I think for some psychics and mediums, they can have bad readings just like anybody can have a bad day on the job.
Sure.
It could definitely happen. And then some are just either cold reading or whatever. But then there's the ones like my friend Katrina Cooper. I just got to meet up with her after I hadn't seen her in a year or more, or 2 years, I think. Met with her and my friend Rhodey. And, when I remember the first time I met her, I mean, just that, she doesn't do names. She couldn't get names. And I people are like, oh, if you don't know the name and how you're communicating. She was able to give me specific information that related to me and what was going on in my life at that time. That was very specific.
Right.
And, it works differently for each psychic and medium, but all of it is some kind of connection to this other side where things are trying to communicate with us. I think we're being communicated in our lives. Like you said, you think your friend orchestrated maybe putting you and your partner together.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes, behind the veil, that people just don't realize or notice until their eyes are opened by a spiritual transformative encounter or something that opens their eyes to it, and then you start noticing it.
Definitely.
Now, with your journey into this land of the weird and the unusual, what are some of the experiences you've had since that you think of expanded your views on what reality and life is? I mean, beyond just knowing there's an afterlife.
Okay, so one big one since I've been down here in the Caribbean is manifesting things. So I believe that I can manifest some situations, but I never really thought I could manifest something physical. And I have been able to manifest physical things. So, one situation was, I was in Maryland, Rick and I were in Maryland, and we were headed to the airport, and we were stopping at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. At the bottom, there's a Sandy Point Beach, which is it's kind of funny. It's called that because it's not sandy at all. It's got all like black stones on it. We have a sandy point beach here in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, where I actually do a lot of my manifesting. A lot of major miracles happen at this sandy point beach. But anyway, we were walking along. We had already gone under contract for our home in the Caribbean, and he was walking ahead of me, and the breeze was blowing, and it was just a beautiful day, and I just felt so blessed. I was again in this state of gratitude. It seems like, when I have these experiences, I'm like really deep into this thankfulness. I don't try to do that. It just is like I am in that state. And so I without speaking out loud, I said, God, the only thing that would make this moment perfect is if I could find some Cheney. And Cheney is a special kind of Danish blue and white pottery. It's not always blue and white, but mostly that you find in the Caribbean in St. Croix a lot. It can get washed up, at the beaches, and it's St. Croix is known for this kind of jewelry. And I have found Cheney small pieces, not even big enough to put in a ring or a pendant or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had put that kind of message out there without speaking, just, with my thoughts. And immediately I looked down and there was a piece of Cheney. And I was just blown away, and I'm just, yelling ahead for Rick, you've got to see this. I didn't even move it. I left it on the ground for him to see because, he knows what Cheney is. And I'm like, I told him what I just said here, that I was just in a state of gratitude and being thankful for everything. And, that would be the only thing that would make this perfect. And there it was on the ground. And I since brought that Cheney when we came back to the Caribbean to a jeweler that's very familiar with Cheney. She actually has a store called Cheney Chicks, which is, she knows a lot about this and the history of it, and confirmed that it was definitely a piece of Cheney and that there was no logical explanation of why it would show up on a beach in Maryland at all.
Yeah, because it's a Caribbean theme.
Yeah. There's no way.
That's crazy.
I said, are you sure it can't, like, just the tides couldn't bring it or whatever?
It'd be a long travel.
Yeah, she's just like, no. So that is another example of some things manifesting. I've manifested some situations. Just it's usually when I don't consciously do it, where I don't set out to manifest. It's not like I set out and say, okay, I would like to win the lottery. Wouldn't
that be great?
Give me the lottery numbers. Remember that one time traveler's wife when I think he eventually
a couple time travel movies.
Yeah. And I love, oh my gosh. I mean, even my children would tell you, if you were to ask them today, what is your mom's favorite type of movie? They would hands down say time travel movies.
Oh, me and you both.
Oh, totally. Like, remember Somewhere in Time?
Oh, yes. Mackinac Island. I've always wanted to visit just because of that movie.
Right. And that was fascinating to me at a time when, I didn't know anyone else that liked time travel. And I even love the Back to the Future movies. I love that whole concept of time travel. And so anyway, getting back to the manifesting, I don't really set out to manifest something. It's when it's just a natural progression when I'm in a state of gratitude, not even knowing I'm in a state of gratitude. I mean, I feel like I'm always living in that state, but I'm really, really deep into thought, and something will cross my mind and then it's manifested, without me, trying. It's like I keep on, I'm given signs like that I'm on the right path. I'm getting that feeling, just like when Zach was talking about like the feeling he had that they were family members. I get a feeling of certain things, and it's like a knowing, and it's so cool. It's just so cool. And I mean, I'm so glad that, my partner Rick is so open to this, and he's experienced things with me, and in addition to his own experiences, that we're open to talk about this. So we talk about things like this on a regular basis, and that's so cool, you know.
Oh, I know. I feel one of the times I feel the most gratitude is just being married to the woman I am for 17, soon to be 18 years. Because I mean, the first date we had, we were talking about the weird, strange stuff, you know,
Yeah.
like, and I dated all these girls before that, you know, none of that would ever be talked about, you know, it'd be superficial
No, she
things,
gets
you know.
it. She gets it.
Yeah.
And-
So
and
I was
that's
like,
a
I'm
nice-
marrying that woman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you did.
What's weird about it is we went to grade school together in high school and never talked to her. But when I was in grade school, I had the very like adult-like dream that I didn't understand at the time with her. I don't want to go into much more detail than that, but it was like somehow even back then I was being shown this will be your wife, but I never asked her out until I was out of high school, and just and synchronicity things played along with that. I actually called her. Her boyfriend at the time had like taken off for a couple months without telling her, and hadn't called her, and she's, you know, and I called her, or he called her like right after I asked her out, like right like moments after she gets a call from him, and she's like, yeah, screw you, buddy, I'm going on a date with this guy, because she had a crush on me, I guess, since like high school or whatever.
Wow.
And so when I asked her out, she said, if you would have asked me out after that phone call, things could have been totally different.
Right. But things lined up. The universe lined up for you.
Yeah, and I totally believe it. I mean, I mean, for example, I told you like a couple times in my life I've had that feeling, that immense love that you talk about. It's a particular kind of feeling, and it's a state of tranquility, of like a light. There's something always with you. You're not alone, and there's this immense feeling of love. One time was when I was being saved by God when I was being spiritually attacked. The other time is right before I was going to get married to my wife, and I've talked about this one a lot recently, was my youngest son, Liam. I saw him before he was born. I saw a translucent boy. He was like 8 or 9, maybe 10 years old, and he's only 6 now, but I can see it was him. Walk into my parents' living room in the middle of the day. He was translucent and smiled at me, and I wasn't scared. My parents' house isn't haunted. I knew it wasn't haunted. I didn't know what it was I was encountering, but I felt like I knew this boy, and he just smiled at me, and I felt this more immense, warm feeling of love. And it's like time, when you talk about time slows, or it's like jelly. It's exactly the feeling. When you're talking about it, I keep thinking about that. I know I brought it up the last couple times on the show, this encounter I had. But when you're talking about time slow, that's one of the times I felt it the strongest. Like, it was so, I couldn't tell you how long this moment lasted between me and this translucent boy. It smiled at me, but it felt like forever. And then it was just over. He's gone.
And then there's no words spoken, like, because you strike me as someone that would want to ask him some questions, like, hey, bud, who are you?
But I was like stuck in the moment.
You're stuck in the moment, and words just aren't even important.
And you talk about gut feelings. I was there when he was born, and my wife had a C-section. They brought him out, and they placed him up next to her, and I had my phone ready, and I took a picture of this moment. He smiled. Right out of the womb, he smiled, and I knew that moment I saw that smile. I thought of that boy, that translucent boy, and I knew at that moment, my gut, right at that moment, lots going on. I'm the second child being born right in front of me, but my brain, I know what I thought at that moment. He smiled at me. That's the boy I saw. I knew it right then.
Yep. I believe it. And I'm so glad you have a platform like this where you can talk about this, because I'm sure there are other people out there that have had experiences, but just don't have the platform or the voice, or might not even be ready to put 2 and 2 together.
Or they do, but it's like they don't. Who do you talk to without them thinking you're a flake or crazy? And that's exactly why I do this show. It's not just for people that have had negative encounters, it's for positive ones too. Because any kind of encounter out of everybody's normal idea of what reality is hard to talk about, because nobody wants to be looked at like they're crazy. And it's hard to tell your closest friends because you're afraid they're going to look at you like you're crazy.
Right.
So I think it's awesome that you're putting getting this out there in fiction, in a way to kind of open people's minds up to be maybe more comfortable to talk about it. other experiences people have you looked into, like out of body experiences or?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've heard numerous accounts, and I've, gotten to know some people that have had experiences like Trisha Barker. She wrote the book Angels in the OR, and
I've heard of that. Yeah, I
yeah,
think I've heard of that.
she's awesome. She's an English professor in Texas. She writes poetry and all that too, but she also speaks on her near-death experience of being able to, be out of her body and watch an operation and survive something that she probably shouldn't have survived. And that's just one of many. There's just so many different people. I would suggest that your audience check out IANDS, which is IANDS, International Association for Near-Death Studies, because those, you can even just find YouTube accounts. They have a channel where you can check out people's testimonials on what they experienced. There are just so many different ones, and I just it'll open up a whole new world to you. And once you really look into that, you might end up having an experience yourself and be compelled to write a book like I did. I had
hopefully
to
not a near-death experience, but more just a spiritual encounter. But we've had guests on the subject alone of near-death experiences, and one of the parts of it that I find fascinating, and I think hopeful, or at least to give some people some kind of comfort that have lost people, is the ones who died in a traumatic, or had a near-death experience. I shouldn't say they died, but they come back. But a traumatic experience like a car wreck or something is. I've had more than a number come on and talk about their experience where they're right before the accident, they were taken out of their body. They like see it in third person.
Right.
Like there's something there that's like, okay, we're going to pull you away from this. You watch your body get turned into a sack of bones, basically, or get totally mangled, but you don't feel it. Because, I mean, that's the question, people have when you lose a loved one that's gone through something, that horrible feeling like, oh, my God, I hope they didn't suffer, or, it was, quick. You hear people say that. It's just the hardest thing to think about. And you don't want to think about, but your brain goes there. And I think these experiences people have are ways to get that message out to us, into our consciousness, that when the time comes, you're not alone. And you're not going to suffer.
And most of these people have positive experiences. I mean, there are a few that I've read about and heard that are negative experiences at first, but then eventually it turns into some sort of lesson or positive.
Right.
So,
there's a purpose behind the negative afterlife experience. I mean, I've heard it. I mean, I'm a big Art Bell fan, and he had a guest on it, a couple, at least one that talks about a whole hell experience they had, near-death experience, but they changed their life, became pretty religious and spiritually. So it was a good thing. Sometimes people need that kick in the pants, I guess. Is what it is.
Another thing that we haven't talked about, and you might have talked about, and I'm not that familiar with, is reincarnation. And
I have a lot on that, yes.
I bet you do. And, I, again, wasn't a believer in that until I heard that there were hundreds and hundreds of research studies done on this. And then that one little kid that was a World War II fighter pilot, where he could come back to that area and he named names and he knew the plane.
Name of the ship.
Oh my gosh.
Ship. They named the plane. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they had him on Ancient Aliens when he's older, which I thought was cool, and he still talks about it. You can see.
I own that whole series.
We go to sleep watch it. We had a tradition. Me and my wife going to sleep to Ancient Aliens on the TV.
We do too. We love the Ancient. I have
this is voice.
I have the whole box set.
Something the narrator of Ancient Aliens' soothing voice is nice. It's not that the show's boring. It's just his soothing voice telling you about ancient aliens in the past.
Right.
And put you to sleep, or I don't know. It's soothing.
It's fascinating, though. It's fascinating. The people,
I'm a believer in past lives. I'm open to a lot of possibilities. I'm agnostic spiritually. I question everything, but I do believe in an afterlife, and I do believe in past lives because of my experiences. I had two very vivid dreams that to me couldn't be my imagination, and they explained both these past lives. I was gifted, and I always say it's a gift to see, and they were both deaths. both the visions I would give were the deaths of these two past lives, how I died in these past lives, explain the reason I've always been wired the way I am about certain things, about when it came to how I felt about religion, and also, how I felt about, I cannot stand when somebody feels like they own somebody else or tries to control somebody else. Like, it's a big pet peeve. Like, I will be your advocate. I will be your fighter to get you out of that situation. Because when I jumped, I was a little black girl who was a slave, beaten to death by my father, who was a white slave owner. That did happen. The white slave owners would sleep with their slaves, and they'd have kids. And he beat me to death with a broomstick. I felt every whack. I felt the whole thing. I woke up from that and drained in sweat and emotional. And I'd had other experiences with the woman who was my mother in this dream. She'd come to me before. Like, I feel like she's a spiritual guide. The other dream, I was a Buddhist monk.
Wow.
And I had betrayed my temple by turning in the temple head monk, I guess you could call him, to some, I guess, local military. They had rifles. This had been early 1900s, or maybe it was the beginning of Vietnam and the Viet Cong, because it felt like it could be the Vietnam jungle area, because I was running through a jungle after they come and just start killing everybody in the temple. And then they shoot me in the chest, and I woke up from that. And to me, both those past lives explains a lot of how I've always felt about certain things, like when it comes to religion and power over other people, and not trusting organized religion in any sense. These things explained about how I am. I've also had Chris Lee on the show, who does past life regressions, and he did one on me, and I had one past life shown to me in that where I was somebody accused of witchcraft and chained up. And I have these neck issues, and he's the idea is that the reason these neck issues started with me is because in a past life I basically hung myself with the chains that were used to bind me, and these past lives can affect you medically later on. There's some evidence of that. People have actually little marks on their bodies that reflect back to something that happened in their past life.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard of that one person that had a heart surgery or whatever, something, or tracheotomy, I think it was. And when that baby was born, that person came back into a different body and had that same scar in the same.
Or there's people that have gunshot wounds and then reborn, and like they have the marks right where the gunshot was that killed them in the other life.
Well, I believe very much in this because, talking about being controlled, for a reasonably intelligent person, who was successful as a high school teacher for 35 years and raising a family, I found myself choosing to leave kind of an abusive marriage after 27 years because I was controlled and gaslit and all that. And that's so... people who would meet me would think, well, why would you put up with that? Or you seem you seem stronger than that. But I think it could have to do with some past lives in that maybe I was an abuser at a previous life, and I needed to experience what it felt to be on the other end of it, this life. And
that's the thing. Well, I talked about this with my deep conversations with friends and even my kids about like what I believe spiritually in that, and I'm like, I don't think karma works exactly like that, where like you were abuser and now you're going to be put in an abusive relation. But I do believe we're in a lesson, we're in a plan to open us up to ideas. Maybe for you, the plan was to get you to stand up for yourself,
right? Or
because other past life
all
issues.
Of that, if I almost have to thank the toxic people in my life, because without experiencing the dark and the negative, I wouldn't, really have come as far as I have. But I understand what you mean, that there's not necessarily karma and that type of thing. And I think karma sometimes is not.
I think there's karma. I just don't think it's as simple as everybody thinks it might be.
I agree. But I think that possibly we could have even had a soul contract with another person.
Right.
Like, so some of the negative people and situations in our lives could have been something we signed up for, that we wanted to experience on this earthly realm. So that's another perspective.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, there's so much that's being played behind the veil. I would say behind the scenes, but behind that veil, behind that curtain, that's going on, that sets up our experience here. on a daily basis, on a long-term basis, that happens, I believe. You know, I think there's so much evidence of this, that our lives, I don't believe in predestination. I believe there's many different roads to choose from.
Right.
But there are certain roads and certain lessons that we're going to be guided towards for particular reasons. And like I said, past life could be definitely a big one in this. For me, I know both those past life experiences make me not trust people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's one of the lessons I have to learn is how to open up and trust people more. You know, and I've gotten better at that. And that's why I would love people to open themselves up to these ideas, the synchronicities, the past lives, because there's all lessons here. These are all things, the force, as I call it, trying to reach out to us to do better than the last time, to learn something new, you know. And if you go through your life, like taking a negative, I'm not perfect. I react just like everybody else does to negative experiences and crap happening in life. But I try to stop myself as I've gotten older to go, okay, what is the universe trying to teach me here?
Right.
What am I supposed to learn from this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you said that beautifully. And I think that, you know, we are here to learn some lessons and to grow as individuals. I'm a very different person now than I was 5 years ago. And certainly 10 years ago, and even, you know, as a kid. So I really think that it's all good. And I think handling challenges, you know, with love and light and goodness and an open mind, you know, I think is a wonderful thing. I think just having these conversations is so meaningful because
I agree.
It's not like we have all the answers. We can share our experiences. We can hear other people's experiences. We can kind of contemplate what could be the reason for it. But I think the discussions are important to have. And I really am thrilled that, you know, you invited me on your show to have these, you know, to carry on this kind of conversation.
Like I said, we all carry little, I always say this on the show all the time, is we all carry little pieces to the puzzle of what life is, the afterlife is. We all are having our experiences. We all have little pieces of it. None of us have the full answer. It's not 42. Okay. You know, like saying we all carry little pieces of this. And that's why I love doing this kind of show, is that by me and you talking gets other people to not write off their own experiences too, or think they're crazy. Right. We got to go to our last commercial break. You cool to still hang on for another half hour with us?
Of course, I'm good. Yeah.
All right, guys, and we will open up. You know, the phone lines are open. I close them down during commercial break. So if you call during the commercial break, it's going to hang up on you. So just try after we come back from the commercial break. If you want to call in, I'd love to hear. I had a couple people try to call in earlier. I didn't know if I could call them back or not. If you want to try to call in tonight, guys, if you're still listening, I'd love to hear about your spiritual experiences like this, spiritual transformative encounters. I love that title of that term for it, because I think there's a lot of things that happen in our life that are there. It's the force, it's God, it's the will, whatever, trying to wake us up beyond. And I feel as a society we need a lot of that, because we have a lot of technological craziness, drama in the world, things to distract us from our true lessons, our true purpose in life. The things, fear especially, anything with fear takes us away from what we're really truly here for. And that's what, there's something on the other side trying to reach out to us, and that's what we're talking about tonight when we come back from the short commercial break.
Intercepted the transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, Egon.
You're listening to the Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight we've been talking to guest Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro. She is the author of God Came to My Garage Sale, a spiritual fiction book but based on a lot of her actual spiritual transformative encounters. And tonight, the phone lines, let me make sure they're open for you guys, are going to be open. They are open now. For the last half hour, you want to call in and tell us about your own spiritual transformative encounter. We had a couple good calls there from Heather and from Zach. Great experiences they shared. Heather took her 20 years just to talk about it. That's why I do the show. This is your place. You can be anonymous. To share your experience might help someone else know and understand what they went through and experience was real. Because that's what we question. When we have these incredible experiences, it's like, was it real? Am I just stretching it or believing? I know I've questioned myself, but they're there. And I always say, trust your gut when it tells you you're having an experience, because there's something on the other side, some light at the end of the tunnel, like I say, the force, trying to let us know there's so much more to this life and reality and these experiences we're going through every day, that we're not alone. And something wants us to be better and learn, I think. All these things we're talking about tonight, but let's go ahead and get back to our incredible guests. Thank you for hanging in there with us, Marni. So far, I love all this that we're getting to talk about. These are all, like, you're very, what I call soupy guests. We can get a lot of different discussions. You did mention aliens before. Mm-hmm. I know a particular friend of mine who's having some spiritual transformative encounters, I think, right now. But they're more definitely on an alien side. But they're not negative. It's not like it's an abductee negative experience. I have those too. I know some people are having some negative abductee experiences. But he's having like almost a spiritual experience, but it's definitely alien related. Have you learned anything or have any advice for people like that or going through that?
No, I really haven't had experience myself. I would just say follow your gut feeling, and, whatever, explanation comes to you is probably what it is. Like your first thought, what it is really.
Yeah.
If I found writing to be extremely therapeutic for me on so many different levels, maybe encourage your friend to do some writing, like after the experience, after whatever the thought comes to his mind, to maybe write some things down, because then you can revisit it later and kind of keep a notebook handy in a couple places, so I found writing to be, really, really good to get it out. Or some people might even want to take their phone and record it, just talk into it. Dictate. Yeah. Just to get it out, while it's fresh in your mind.
I definitely believe that's really good advice, because, I mean, it took me a while to tell people about my shadow person negative encounter I had, because it's really personal, and there's still stuff I'll never talk to anybody about except for like my wife and really, really close people to me. But I did write it all out and ended up in a book by Mike Ricksecker. And when I wrote that out, it brought out other things I didn't think about. Because you push these things away, especially if they're more negative side like mine, but you don't think about them for so long, and then you bring it all back up and write it out and get it all out on paper. It's one, letting go of the instances and regrets and all that, but it's also opens your eyes to things you might have not really thought about until you got it down on paper. We do have somebody else on the line I want to get to before we run out of time. I think we got Linda on the line. How you doing tonight, Linda?
Doing great. How are y'all doing?
Doing good. It's good to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. I've been sitting here listening. Good evening, Doctor.
Oh, hey.
I wanted to share with y'all something that I have found to be true. On a quick overall. I was raised in a very spiritual home. My grandparents were evangelistic, and I grew up in tent revivals and all of that. So it's always been a part of my life. But I think when I was in my 20s, I wanted to understand it for me, not because this is what I was taught, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally.
To understand that higher power, to understand who was this man that died for me, So as time went on and I got more in touch with that, I started some people would call them premonitions. I would say they were visions of my future and preparations for my heart that the Lord started giving me. on a couple of examples was when I was at church one night and I was praying, and all of a sudden I had a vision of my sister, and she had beautiful hair. She had like crystal gel, just all the way down to her middle, to her waist, just gorgeous hair. And I saw her bald. And it just threw me. I could not for the life of me understand why. Why am I seeing that?
Yeah.
So fast forward a few years, she called me up one day crying, and they found out she had cancer, breast cancer. And, as we're talking, and it's still at this point, it's not clicking,
Yeah.
And as we're talking, she started talking about having chemo. And she would lose her hair.
Yeah.
And it was then that I understood, after that conversation, and I was by myself, I understood he had prepared my heart to be strong for her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was going to need that strength, to get through everything she had to get through. On another occasion, I specialize in infant child care. And I was working in a child care center that we had 12 infants in that room. Could have walked in there, had the pick of the litter to hold any baby I wanted to hold.
Yeah.
And I woke up one day and I had this deep desire to just hold a baby. And it wasn't like, and at first I'm thinking, okay, well, am I going through, do I want another baby? Where is this coming from, And I walked into work and I stood there and I looked, like I said, I had a pick of the litter.
Yeah.
But it wasn't any of those babies. It was a special baby. And it baffled me. I had absolutely no clue what was going on. So as time went on, I don't know how long, I can't put a number of months or years on it.
Yeah.
My daughter got pregnant with the baby. And I understood that was the baby that the Lord was preparing my heart for.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's great. That you put the situations together is pretty significant. So I think you go with that. You realize that there are some reasons for that. So I think it's great that you shared that. And, like you said, actually with both of your stories, it's like there was something else going on, some sort of divine intervention of some sort, whether it's preparing you for either situation.
Well, yeah, like I used to drive to work, and as I drove to work, the sun would always be coming up. And as the sun was coming up, the planes would be coming into the airport, and they'd be coming in from the west to the east. And my heart would just ache for something on the East Coast. And I was like, where is this coming from? I didn't even know anybody on the East Coast. I'm living down in Texas, and I'm like, I don't know anybody out here. And this went on for like weeks. I could just weep. My heart ached so bad. And well, later on, my daughter moved with my granddaughter over here to Virginia. And then I understood he was preparing my heart for that move.
That's
so, in ending this, I just want to say that I have found, for me, that the Lord hears our heart's desires. When I was 19, I told the Lord, I don't know what's going to happen in my life, but just one thing, if I could have a daughter. And as time went on and I got pregnant, I had a daughter.
Right.
And I believe that. And I don't know if I threw that out to the universe. I don't know how people want to look at that. I just feel like he heard my heart's desire. And he knew me well enough to know, had I had a son, I would have loved that son as much as I did that daughter.
But it's kind of nice that you put it out there. You put the thought out there, and you probably had a hand in having it come to fruition, you know? So there is something to say for that. And it's manifesting. Even though I talked about manifesting something physical, I've also, you know, put the intention out there to the universe. And, you know, I've heard many people, many psychic mediums, or, you know, many people that have had spiritual experiences saying that if you don't ask, if you don't put the thought out there, then it may not happen. But, you know, that when we desire certain things, we should just put the thought out there, whether it's in prayer or just whether it's in our thoughts. So that's fantastic that those things happened to you, that you were there, you know, for your sister, and you were prepared a little bit for that. And, you know, just in having this beautiful grandchild, this granddaughter, and having the daughter, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's, and though I've had bad things happen in my life and I've had a lot of losses, I think knowing that I have this faith to lean on has been my survival. Yeah. Without it, I would not be sitting here to tell you I would have done myself off. Mm-hmm. As everybody knows, I've just recently lost my daughter to a drug overdose.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And it was hard. It was hard. And the hardest thing of it all was that the woman, the house that she was at that night, that woman made a bad decision. And that decision helped my daughter die. And I had so much anger and so much just anger. There's no other word. And I didn't like it, because that's not me by nature. I'm not an angry person. I'm not a hateful person. I'm not bitter.
No, you know, you don't sound like an angry person. And actually, you know, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And I know have many that have lost loved ones to an overdose situation. And it seems so unfair to be taken before their time, you believe. But on another side, it's wonderful that you're tuning into this show, as well as maybe open up your heart to other shows discussing the paranormal, discussing spirituality, just to know that life goes on. I mean, even your own faith and maybe it's your faith that's going to help you get through this, because, you know, definitely it's a loss on this earthly plane, but it's very reassuring to step back and realize there might be more at work here, that maybe.
Well, she's not suffering anymore.
Right.
And, you know, with time, I've had time to accept. She wasn't making good choices. She didn't know how to deal with the daily things that was going on. So, in all honesty, she's been spared of that now. I mean, that's how I see it now.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. That's actually a very, very beautiful and very reasonable way to look at it. You know, you're seeing the positives and being thankful for, you know, because it could have been worse. Every situation could have been worse.
Yeah, she's been set free of the daily conflict she had on her. And so in ending, I just want to say, and I have to do this, Jason, I'm going to give a shout out to Adrian, because Adrian helped me so much through the death of my daughter. I love her so much. Adrian, if you hear me, I love you, girl. She has such a touch, and she saw things that happened that night that gave me resolution.
Oh, that's awesome.
To the things that happened that night. And it was stuff she would not have known.
Right.
And questions that I had. And I just, she helped me. That's all I can say. She helped me get through. that hump.
I have to ask you, did you meet Adrian from this show?
And no, actually from Heather.
From Heather? See, the connections, though.
Yeah, from
the connections, though, between you guys in the chat room is what I love, though.
Yeah. And I would listen to her call in, and then I went into one of the chat rooms, and I was talking to another woman, and she got me in touch with Adrian. And Adrian was so graceful, and she's helped with some other deaths that we've faced recently. And she's just so in tune and so giving and loving, and I love that about her. I love it.
Adrian just says, I hear you, Linda.
With a heart.
Yep. And actually, Linda, you speaking about your situation could be helping someone else that might unfortunately experience the death of a loved one due to overdose in the future here. So it's all, we're all supporting one another, and it's great to have a forum to be able to share these experiences, but also to know that there is hope, because it sure appears that there's more going on here than just what we think about in our earthly life.
I mean, like I said, being raised in a Christian home, it was so black and white.
Right.
And it wasn't meshing for me. And you cannot tell me that you're going to go to this god-awful place, hell, but yet God loves you and He's merciful. Well, that wasn't meshing.
But if you don't obey Him or worship Him, you're going to hell. Yeah, I never bought that part either.
Exactly. And, my grandmother screaming at me when I told her, I said, no, I'm going to do this on my own now. I've got to figure this out for myself. Exactly. Oh, you've gone agnostic. And no, it's not it. I want to put two and two together for me. Yeah. How does this work in my life? And it's working, and I'm happy. And, my granddaughter said something to me here recently. Well, how do you know there is a God? And I said, I just know. And I said, and as I see, I've lost nothing to go this route because it's working for me. Yeah. And as long as it's working for me, that's all that matters.
I wanted to comment too, Linda, on your experiences there. What I love that you said about, because I've had future premonitions of stuff, some horrible stuff, and it's hard to deal with when you do. Like, why would I be shown that when I can't change any of it? I can't change the course of what happened. But I love your perspective that God was trying to prepare your heart for it. I think that's a beautiful perspective. Why? Because a lot of people have those questions when they see something, a premonition or a vision or a dream of something tragic happening in the future, and it's not something they can change. They're not shown this to change something because they couldn't, and it becomes hurtful and confusing sometimes for some people. But I love how you've gotten the perspective that God is trying to prepare your heart, and I've always thought that's what is going on behind people having these kind of experiences.
Oh yeah, like with my sister. I mean, I cannot tell you how prepared and braced I was for that. Once I made that connection, that's what that vision was for, it gave me that strength I needed to help her through that situation.
And again, I think it's also to let us know that we're not alone. No one's alone in this. Like, because a lot of people when they lose someone, a lot of people carry that suffering alone. But these experiences let them know that person wasn't alone when they passed, and they're not alone in their experience. There is something there with them in their grief.
Exactly. Okay, well, thank you so much. I just wanted to share.
Linda, love hearing from you.
Thank you, Linda.
Oh, you're welcome. Y'all have a nice evening.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, yeah, that's exactly why I love doing the show, is these people connecting and, and being a community for each other and support system for each other. I mean, a lot of people do come here from loss and experience of loss and the usual things that happen around it. Like I said, people tell me their haunted house stories all the time, but the ones I loved are when they share these spiritual transformative encounters, especially around when it comes to the loss of a loved one and them, realizing there's something more, that the person's not gone. Right. And like I said, they're not alone in their grief either. There's always somebody there with you or something there with you. Yeah. Now, for future projects, we're going to run out of time here. Are you working on a new book in the kind of spiritual fiction realm? I know you do. You do write a lot for abuse and. I was reading your bio. I have a whole interest in narcissists. We could have spent a whole show talking about narcissists. And I have a fascination because I feel I'm the opposite of a narcissist. I feel like I have. My thing is deep empathy. I can put myself in a lot of people's shoes. Narcissists are a complete opposite of that. Like sociopath to narcissist. To me that I tell people I'm not scared of the paranormal. I'm scared of people.
Right. It's the living people that have malevolent agendas. That's who they're out for. The spirit realm. They're wonderful. So no, this the series that I have. It's a 5-book series called True Deceit False Love, and I just held it up. I held up the first one. I've got, all these different books, and they deal with
the mask.
Yeah, they all have a mask.
Yep.
Yeah. They all have a mask that's falling and slipping. So anyway, I am working on a 6th book. Actually, they're behind me here. But I am working on a 6th book of that series, and that'll be the final book. But
is it a fiction series? Like
no.
Fiction? No, but this is a. Okay.
No, it's not. Actually, the first book is a book of 15,555 terms and phrases on this family trauma stuff. And it all came about because I was looking up these terms. I didn't know about gaslighting or narcissism or scapegoat or stonewalling or whatever. I didn't know those terms. So I would write
narcissist.
I would write them down just to check them out later. And before I knew it, I had 100 terms. And then I had 1,000 terms, and I thought, oh my gosh, at this point, I need to really, look into this. And so I did. So I made kind of a reference book with the first book. The second book is a book of acrostic poetry, and it's using these terms and phrases in a vertical manner, and then you add on words and sentences. So there are acrostic poems that are very informational. They're not gender specific. It's not an autobiographical situation. It can be from the abuser's point of view, or the empath, or the child's point of view, or even a boss and an employee situation, that, any kind of toxic situation. And then the third book is a survivor's workbook. So if you find that writing is good for you, if it helps you heal and make sense of what you've been through, there's a survivor's workbook. And then the fourth book is free verse poetry. And the fifth book, this is kind of weird, but this is a word search puzzle book. So, for example, I write covert narcissist or whatever, and there are a lot of terms that are related, and then there's a word search. And so I have found that that's extremely healing for people. It's relaxing and healing, but informative at the same time. It's like using another part of your brain to work through your trauma. So I'm doing
narcissists. I like that term.
Right.
Because they are the most dangerous of them all.
They are, especially the covert malignant. And if you're married to one, watch out, because even if you escape, they obsess over you. They stalk and harass for years and years to come. So it's been a real life lesson. But I've taken my pain and turned it into my power, because I really feel that the healing journey has been a really good one for me. And luckily I've been able to help other people. But I will tell you, with this spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale, I do see this as a movie. And I don't know if I can manifest that or not, but I've had a few producers that are interested in the movie. I see it as
being somebody who went to film school and is a big movie buff and a book buff. If I ever did finish writing a book myself, and somebody's like, we want to make a movie, I'd be actually scared because of what Hollywood could do in a book.
I know, but I have a real vision for this, and I almost feel that God Came to My Garage Sale would be a perfect life review for someone who had a near-death experience. So someone who died and then experienced all these different things that actually were written in this spiritual fiction, but then got revived. I'd like the happy ending part where they come back to to their body and they survive this experience to go on and spread the word of love and possibly have a radio or talk show like Paranormal Soup or something like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Any time travel books in your future?
No,
Speaking of time travel,
I love
them
reading
too.
them. I love watching the movies and reading them.
Oh yeah. I was so mad. Did you see Timeless when they had that on TV?
No, I don't really have TV here. So
Yeah, there's some good shows like Quantum Leap's coming back. Like they're bringing Quantum Leap back. It's like all the good time travel stuff gets canceled too early. I love time travel TV, movies, all that stuff.
I
So
know, me too.
maybe one day in the future we'll get that. So where can people? You have a website where people can check out all more information on you?
It's just the name of the spiritual fiction. So www.godcametomygarage.com. And there you can find out about my books if you're interested in, either the spirituality part or the surviving, narcissism and that type of thing, any kind of family trauma. I write about that. And I have a number of people that have endorsed my book, like we had mentioned, with the spiritual fiction, James Redfield.
James Redfield, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a book. That's a book in itself to talk about.
Unbelievable. And that he found value in what I was doing to be my main endorser of my book was fantastic. So, but actually, that would be where to find me. I do various podcasts and kind of getting the word out there, but at the same time, I'm enjoying my life in the Caribbean and enjoying being retired. And, I have enough to do here, without constantly writing.
Oh yeah, but I when I read that he endorsed you, Redfield, about the Celestine Prophecy. I was 20-something. I was in high school, I think, and everybody was reading Celestine Prophecy, like that was into this stuff, and I was one of them. And I remember everybody like putting you in like his kind of has like categories of people, like it was like really popular. Like late 90s, 2000s, whatever. I remember everybody getting into that. But it's a fictional book, but it reminds me of like another book. These books that like I want to say it's fiction, but they say it's not. It's Don Juan tales of know what I'm saying, these like Carl Castaneda. These books, they either through fiction or maybe slightly fiction. They open your eyes to these spiritual concepts, and so I definitely want to check out your book.
All fiction. Well, I'll mail you a copy of it.
All right.
But all fiction is really grounded in some kind of reality. And, actually, James Redfield is still out there. He's got a whole organization called the Celestine Vision. So he's got a whole community of people that explore spirituality in a real nonfiction manner.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on the show.
Yeah. He's really awesome. Well, you know what? I mean, I got him. He endorsed my book, and who am I?
That's awesome.
And so reach out, and
you
never know. You just manifest it. Make it happen for yourself.
Well, Marni, I'm glad we had you on. I'd love to have you on again. You have a great night.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I'll email you so I can get your address.
Okay.
Where I can mail you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to read it. Well, that's it for the show, guys. We are out of time. It goes by quick. We will be back next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Next week, we're going to have Mark Leslie on. He's a publisher, author, critically acclaimed. He wrote the critically acclaimed Werewolf series in Canada, but he's also into the paranormal, written some more paranormal books. So we're going to get a lot of different discussions next Sunday. See you next week. Thank you, everybody who shares out the show. Thank you, everybody who donates on Patreon, or you can always donate on Super Chat. It does help pay the bills. And everybody, love you all in the chat room. Love the great community we have here, and can't wait to have you all back again next Sunday. See you then.